afternoon, everybody. You're listening to AngelOfThyNight Radio, and this is Lord Rick, live in Carson City. And I'm going to bring you guys a very special segment of our show. It's not going to be for everybody. There are people who despise guns, who will not own guns, let alone even touch them, take them apart, clean them, that kind of thing. Right now, obviously, we're in the middle of a pandemic, the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic. Things could get worse. Food supply could get short. Yellowstone could blow. There's a lot of volcanic activity up near Wyoming and Idaho. It's getting scary, because if it blows, that's the end. There's not going to be any food on the shelves. People are going to starve. People are going to break laws to feed their families, which means sneaking in places, raiding stores, whatever it takes. And of course, that's a very scary scenario. I mean, you guys know, no food at the stores. I mean, it's bad enough there's no toilet paper or paper towels, but I go through a wholesaler, so I got enough to last me months. But the point is either you got a couple things you can do. You can prep ahead of time, be a prepper, prep for the worst, stock up on food, stock up on this, not overstock, but, you know, make sure you have a couple weeks of food in your house just in case something goes wrong. And if food runs out, what do? You grow a garden. I raise chickens. I get eggs constantly all day long. I raise chickens. Eggs are a good source of protein. You can do that. You can grow a garden. Maybe something happens around, let's say, the end of summer. Well, that's harvesting time, so if you plant your seeds now, you'll have food for later. You have another option too. You can go out and hunt. Here in Nevada, people hunt for elk, antelope, deer, and a lot of people will get their tags, hunt to their max, and they'll put in a deep freezer a couple deer or a couple elk, you know, and that's their food supply the next 6 months, next year. So you can hunt. I'm a proud gun owner. I own a lot of guns. Recently something happened where I had to store my shotgun, forgot about it, and the area it was stored in was moist because it was in a basement. Didn't think about moisture in a basement. Who does? You just think, okay, I'll just store it in the basement or whatever. But I had this stored elsewhere in a basement. Well, I went to retrieve my gun, and the entire shotgun is a Mossberg 12-gauge shotgun, 500A. Had so much rust on the barrel, the trigger, everything, you know. I'll show you. Now, it's not as bad. Let's see, it goes together like this. This is how it's going to go together. And then, of course, the trigger and the handle, or the stock, and put all the little mechanisms and parts back. Now, I had taken this apart. I mean, it's in pieces. This is what you cock the shotgun with this, you guys can see. And so what I decided to do, see, you have the stock. You can actually put a better one on, the trigger. That's really bad, and I'm going to show you guys how bad it is. So you guys can see, I'm going to show you all the rust on all the pieces. So when I had gotten the gun, back, I was like, holy shit, man, this is a rust bucket, you know? And I mean, it was really bad. I had bought something called Metal Rescue. I didn't have a container long enough to fit the entire gun, you know, to soak it. So I had a box, I taped it up, and then I sat a garbage bag around it and filled the Metal Rescue to submerge the gun. Well, come to find out, the garbage bag was porous, so it all leaked out. However, if you look, it took off all the barrel. This was the barrel, okay? It's still a little rusty, but it took off most of the rust on the barrel. What it also did is when I cleaned the remnants of the remaining rust, it took all the paint off. This used to be purely black. This whole barrel was black. Dark black. Gunmetal black. Or as they call black blue or whatever, you know, in the gun business. So I lost all the paint on my shotgun. Most of the paint's gone. A lot of rust in the mechanisms. You guys can see the rust on it. It didn't get, even though I soaked it, it wasn't long enough to get the parts inside, because the parts inside, even if you soak it, it's metal against metal, so the rust, there's no way it can get all the rust in the mechanisms, because everything's tightly secured inside the gun. So when I took apart the gun to lube it, I realized that there was more rust internally than externally. This was all bright orange and rust. The Metal Rescue cleaned it, okay? Again, it didn't get the inside. Because when I took apart the gun and looked at the internal pieces, I realized there was still a lot more rust. So, I didn't want to spend another $20. Because there's home remedies to get rust. Is something that you can get off. The problem is, once you get rust on a piece of metal, you're going to have to repaint it. So this is a special segment show. I'm going to show you how to clean off and get rid of all the rust. Okay? And I'm going to show you how to do a home remedy, which is cheaper than buying a couple gallons of Metal Rescue. And like I said, it all went down the drain. I lost everything, man. It soaked maybe. The gun was probably submerged for a couple hours, and it took most of the rust off. I mean, the whole gun was orange. Brown orange. And it did take externally all the rust off, but then internally the mechanisms didn't get clean enough. So I'm going to get a Brillo pad or some steel wool. I'm going to end up showing you guys a home remedy. This will work with your tools, your guns, anything that you have that has rust that you want to soak. Maybe it's got a wrench, it won't move because it's all rusted. This will cure the problem. And there's different ways you can do it. For example, many rust removers that you buy now actually have citrus in them, or lemon, the product that's in lemon juice that will take rust off. Okay, really what you can use to take rust off is distilled white vinegar. Okay, and you can soak it a day or two or a couple hours, and then you can just wipe off the rust with some steel wool, a Brillo pad, that kind of thing. So my home remedy today, I'm gonna double the potency, and we're gonna use 3 half-gallons of distilled white vinegar. And I mean, this is really potent because it's concentrated. Some concentrated 100% lemon juice. All the lemon juice does is when you mix it with the white vinegar, it creates a more potent mixture that can eat away the rust and remove the rust. And what's going to happen is I'm going to soak this for about 72 hours. So what we're going to do is I got a vat here. I bought this plastic container. I'm going to put the gun parts in here. The whole gun's in pieces, and I'm going to tell you what we're going to do, but I'm going to soak this a few days. It's really bad. The trigger's tight. The mechanisms are tight. And once I get the rust off and use some gun oil, put it all back together, it's going to work like a charm. What I'm going to do is, since the rust had removed all the black paint, obviously there's no paint. This used to be black. I mean, you guys can see how bad the rust is on that, right around this area, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove all the rust, because you got to. You got to remove the rust first. And I'm going to paint it. So this show is going to be a couple hours, and I showed you guys the gun, I showed you it's rusty. I'm going to soak it for a few days, and I'm going to bring it out, and I'm going to show you how well this mixture works and how well it removed the rust. And then we're going to have a session where I'm going to show you how to paint the gun. We're going to do probably a crimson red, maybe a cherry red. It'll be a black and red gun. Black and red's our color for our, it is our theme colors for our paranormal site, our radio show, some of our gear, our sports team is red and black. I'm wearing red and black. Due to COVID-19, people are a little paranoid, and they feel like you know, like, hey, I need my guns. But this is what it'll look like together. And then we'll put the pieces back on, the mechanisms, everything else. This gun looks pretty bad. I mean, if you guys look at this gun, but if you guys look at this gun, you can clearly see how rusty it is. You should never have rust inside the mechanisms. It's just not good. It's not going to fire right. It's going to be bad on the gun and bad on you. It may not even fire, may freeze up, which is a danger because then you got a slug in there and you know the safety's all freezing. You got a safety on this gun and it's all fucking not working right because it's all frozen and it's not sliding right, which is a common problem with this Mossberg, but we still want to make sure we can loosen some of the gear up, lube it up, paint the gun, put it all back together. So to do this fixture, this is what you're going to do, okay? It may be different depending on the size of the container. If you're using a little plastic container, you don't need 3 of these. I mean, but I'm using a bigger container because it's all I could find to make sure I can fit all the pieces of the gun. Plus they're a couple feet long. So in order for me to submerge the gun, because the gun has to be submerged for the rust to come off, you need to have enough white vinegar and you need to have enough lemon juice, correct? Because let's say I only use 1 of these and I throw my gun in, it's only a quarter submerged, a half submerged, and you want to make sure that the rust you're removing is equal throughout it. So I'm going to take my COVID-19 mask off because it's getting hot and I'm getting steam on my sunglasses. But very strong. Vinegar is a great cleaner. You know, if a cat urinates on a blanket, use vinegar in the wash. It'll get rid of the smell. They won't pee on it anymore. That kind of thing. But it's also good for rust and removing the rust. And if you want to make it extra and a little bit more potent, you use the lemon juice, correct? Because the lemon juice has an agent that takes off rust as well. But it's just as potent as the vinegar. The problem is, you can't buy as many of these to equal the vinegar. So you kind of want to use both. Because these are much more, it's expensive for these type of lemon juices. And it'll add up to almost the price of buying Metal Rescue, you know. But it's concentrated lemon juice, and when you mix it with the vinegar, it's going to do wonders. And so we're going to use, right now my gun would probably be half submerged. And I will show you guys what it looks like once all the pieces are in there. But we want the pieces to be under the fluid. That way the rust is being eaten away equally, and when I pull this out in a few days, I use a Brillo pad. I may not even have to use a Brillo pad. I could probably just use a rag. I have these rags, I'll show you guys. Has a little bit of netting, a little bit more coarse, and you could use this to wipe the rust off, you know, because some people are like, well, I don't want to scratch the paint. Well, if it has rust, you probably, once the rust gets eaten away, it also eats the paint. There's no paint. So you may have to repaint the object, right? So my whole theory is I'm going to have to repaint the gun. It doesn't, even if I lube it, clean it up, put it back together, it doesn't look right. You know what I'm saying? The rust, you could tell at one time it was so rusty because it's no longer, it's so faint, it's just, we're down to the metal on this. And it's not supposed to look like this. So this is a piece we'll probably paint cherry red. I think it's going to look really nice. And you guys are going to see the final results. And the reason why I'm going over this is because, you know, we're all home. A lot of us are home from the COVID-19. What do? Well, you can take apart your guns, lube them, clean them. In this case, I had gotten my shotgun because I'm like, things are getting bad. I may need I have a lot of bird shot and a lot of ammo for the Mossberg. It's a great gun to hunt with. And if there's ever, let's say things go south, which I hope not, but if things go south, this Mossberg gun, well, it's in pieces, but this Mossberg gun is going to feed my family and myself, because I can hunt geese, I can hunt deer, It's not the best hunting gun. I have rifles for that, but given the fact that I own more ammo for my Mossberg, it's a great all-around gun for protection, for hunting, depending on what ammo you're using too. Because they have buckshot, or they have birdshot, and they have buckshot, and so I have a lot of different ammo for my Mossberg, and I want to get it working in case I need to use it to bird hunt, feed my family if there's ever a food shortage supply due to COVID-19 and any other pandemics that might sweep across, or natural disaster like if Yellowstone blows. It's a super volcano. It will wipe out the United States. There'll be no fruit belt. There'll be no Midwestern farm belt because nothing will be able to grow. We will have no food. People will be scared running from this thing, heading west to get out of the ash, And so if you really want to eat, you're going to have to either resort to eating berries, fishing, hunting, those types of things. Make sure your guns work. Make sure you lube them up. Painting is just an external thing. I don't need to paint it. I just want to paint it so it looks nice and presentable, and in my gun cabinet, that kind of thing. And use the whole thing of lemon juice. I want it highly potent, and I want to make sure that I have enough lemon juice and vinegar that this soaks for a few days. Then when I come back from camping and hiking, I can put it back on the counter here. I can put it back on the counter, take out the pieces, clean it up, and show you guys what a difference and how, it should not have any rust once we're done with this project. And this was an accident. Like I said, it was being stored away, and I took it out, I was shocked, the whole gun was orange. I'm like, man, it was freezing up, it didn't even work. At least now it cocks. But there's still rust internally because everything's tight inside, rusted, and I had a hard time getting the pieces out, and I didn't have it submerged in the metal rescue long enough because it leaked out. This will be submerged a few days. It's not going nowhere. I have a lid to prevent it from evaporating, and if you guys watched my previous show, if you look here on the crock pot, we have some Jack the Ripper London broil cooking, which was my previous segment. And it's in the crock pot cooking. So this is my second show for the day. I think people need to learn to hunt and fish, and you're going to need a gun to protect yourself in the case of a natural disaster or our country goes to war. It could be anything, man. And people think that people that own guns are bad, and not everybody commits mass shooting. Some people want to have a gun for protection and hunting, and that's okay. And so my shotgun, my Mossberg's never been fired. It was a new gun. I've owned it for years, but trudging it through the Sierras, it being on wet ground, it being stored in a cellar, it's had dust in it, rocks, the paint's gone, it's had rust, a lot of rust developing inside the barrel. I bought a new cleaning kit, which I will utilize, but we want to make sure there's no rust. So when I shoot it, it cocks smoothly, shoots with no obstructions, issues, freezing up, whatever the case is, we want it to shoot smoothly. And if I take it hunting, I want to be able to use my birdshot or whatever and take an animal out with accuracy and not have the gun just not fire right, that kind of thing. You can't afford to waste ammo, and you surely want your gun working in a case where there's martial law and there's no food and people are going psychotic because they can't get food, they don't know what to do, and you'll have guns where you'll be able to hunt, or you'll have fishing poles where you can go fish. So some people have no problem surviving. Some people will hang themselves because they won't know what to do. When I found out this gun wasn't working, I was like, all my guns work, but the Mossberg. So we're going to pour the last lemon juice on in there. But I want you guys to learn and get something out of this. And you can do this with any tools. It's not like you have to use it for a gun. But the gun had so much rust on it, I thought to myself, this would be a great video for you guys to learn something new while you're home stuck with the COVID-19 occurring. Okay, so there's a lot of pieces. Okay, this is, you got the stock, you got the barrel. We're going to start by putting the barrel the barrel in. Now you guys, one last look. There's all kinds of rust inside the barrel. You won't want to fire this. It's not even cocking smooth. This gun is all frozen due to the rust. We'll put the barrel on in. There we go. And I'm going to use this to mix it. Just push the barrel around. Within 2 hours, you'll start seeing this white vinegar and lemon juice will look very orange or brownish in color. But I heard, I could hear it go throughout. You could hear the vinegar just pour on into the barrel itself. And I can see brown just coming out, so that's good. So we're going to put this is the major framework of the weapon right here. You know, you put your ammo right here, and of course the barrel will lock into here. I mean, it's really a great, the Mossberg is a great gun. The SWAT team would use it. Some of the SWAT team would use these Mossbergs. This is a SWAT team gun. But you can use it for hunting or whatever. People like to just target practice and fire. I don't know, I like rifles and handguns for target practice. But for this shotgun, it has a nice shot. It's very accurate. I've seen it being used. I would love to clean it up, paint it, and show you guys the final results. So we're gonna, this also locks, these are the locking pieces. You guys can kind of see, if you look on the inside, see how rusty that is? Alright guys, might as well pull my hair out. I don't plan on wearing my mask anymore around the house. That might be just a little weird to wear a COVID-19 bandana, mask, respirator around the house when you're all by yourself. You know, what's your dog going to give you COVID-19? But what I have is great if you're going to the store and get some groceries. It's good to have some sort of protection. And of course, when it comes to guns, you don't want to mess around either. Guns are for protection too. So you would not want this to misfire if you had a group of psychos coming at you with a knife. This is really rusty. This piece locks into the gun, like inside, not the barrel part, but where you put that, where the trigger, like it's just a small piece and it locks in. And there's the lock-in pin. Once you pull the pin apart, everything starts to come apart. And then if you look, oh, see, I got rust coming off my hand. The washer was all rusty. But the water's already turning a different color, so we know it's working. Here's the trigger. Okay. Look how bad that is, man. But see, there is a remedy. There is a fix for it. So I want to leave this out because we want the lemon juice to get up on inside. Okay, I just cocked it manually. Now watch. See? But the trigger doesn't have much room because it's actually a little frozen due to the rust. So we want to make sure we leave that open so the lemon juice and white vinegar can eat away at the rust internally, because we don't have any other way to clean it right now except to soak the pieces. Okay? This has a lot of pieces. I kid you not. And I will show you guys everything once it's set in here. But you have a lot of pieces to this gun. I mean, it may look complicated, but on video I will try to put this gun back together, the pieces, little by little, and I'll show you guys when I put it together. But see, here's the thing: we got to clean it, dry it off, paint it, and then put it all back together. So there's a process. And I hope you guys like it. You know, it might help with your guns. I know people are always looking for advice when it comes to their guns or shotguns, how to clean things, maybe some household tricks, or in other words, some home remedies, that kind of thing. And that's what this is. This is a home remedy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it for a few days. I probably only need a few hours, and then I could just use a little muscle and a Brillo pad or steel wool and get the rest off. But the problem is, when you have a mechanism like this, see, the rust is already eaten away. But when you have a mechanism like this, and I'll show you, it's real intricate, and there's a lot of pieces within. I mean, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a lot of little... See, the rust is already coming off. It's not even as bad. I mean, I've only been soaking it now like 10 minutes and most of the rust is already off the trigger piece. But I'm still going to soak it a few days. It's not going to hurt nothing. And we're going to repaint the shotgun, make it look nice so it's gun cabinet worthy. But you could also pull it out, cock it, and shoot it if there's an intruder, or you see a deer out front and there's no food available. You can shoot the deer and have deer meat to feed your family. I don't believe in wasteful killing. I'm okay with hunting and fishing as long as you eat what you catch. You don't just kill it and leave it for sport. That kind of thing. And things are getting hard. Meat plants are closing down. You got the COVID-19. If anything else were to go wrong, World War III, Yellowstone blow, with the combination of the virus, it would be deadly. I mean, it would be devastating to America, and people would have to be self-sufficient. Everybody's like, I got to get back to work. I got to make money. I got to feed my family. What they don't understand, you want to feed your family, hunting is the best way to go at the moment. I mean, unless you're able to get to a grocery store and buy groceries. But if you don't have no money, I suggest you go out there and at least try to hunt. You can hunt turkey, there's birds, there's geese. I mean, you could, bring down an elk, a deer, a moose, whatever. And I got a buddy who does that, and he's got deep freezers, he stocks his meat, he's got food for the year, and that's okay. And then you just grow a garden and you can make vegetables with elk steaks or something, elk burgers. But my point is, you want your guns working right. You want to make sure all of them work. I mean, we're in some strange times. People are going crazy. They're doing stupid things. Food supply might be getting cut short. Tomorrow I'll be buying gas for 50 cents a gallon. It's crazy. 50 cents a gallon. Because I get $1 off. 50 cents a gallon. I fill my whole truck. Go to a bunch of ghost towns because gas is cheap. You know what I'm saying? It's just strange times. People are getting sick. People are dying. The economy's crashing. People aren't working. Jobs are being lost. People are sick home, sometimes for 3 weeks with this. Some people get COVID-19, 3 weeks are out, feeling sick because it comes and goes, the whole fever and stuff. So I understand. And when you're home and you don't have much to do, you can work on little projects, You can say, hey, let me go ahead. I got some rusty tools. Let me throw them in, take the rust on off. I have a lot of tools. I work on my vehicle. I do work around the house. I have tons of tools. And I'm not going to waste this. When I take out my gun and I clean this, now I'm going to rotate the pieces to make sure the rust is coming off, of course. Every day or so I'll check on it, rotate stuff. But when I'm done with this mixture, you can reuse it. And I will end up reusing it on some of my tools. Because I have a pliers or a wrench that's really rusted, I need to put it in. And so I'll end up doing that as well. So everything's soaking, and I'm going to end up flipping all the pieces over just because it's good to make sure that everything the rust comes off. I'm looking at this washer. There is no rust on this washer. This washer had a ton of rust. So it does work, and it works actually very quickly. It works very quickly, but I'm not in any hurry, and I will let this soak for a few days. I have other guns I can hunt with or protect myself with. Point being is, when I got this gun out of the basement, it's like, whoa! This is a $300, $400 shotgun. And it's seized up with rust, and it's like, what a waste. So now this is a little home project with a little home remedy. I don't want to buy another gallon of Metal Rescue. Because if you buy Metal Rescue, it comes in a little bottle like this, it's concentrate, and you add a gallon. However, I would have to buy at least $40 of that, and then add 2 gallons of water. And you get the same effect as if you mix lemon juice with the white vinegar, which is what I did. And the water is just discolored now. Because I can look at the barrel. I can look at the barrel of this gun, and I can clearly see it's eating away at the rust. And that's what we want. We want the rust to be eaten fully off. You don't want to paint this gun until all the rust is off. Because the rust will just spread and eat away, and it's corrosive to the paint and the metal. So, you guys are going to learn how to clean the Mossberg 500A, how I clean it. You're going to learn how to lube it, put it back together, and you're also going to see how to paint it. I mean, hopefully you could do this to your own guns. You can buy almost any paint really, and you can paint your guns. Some people like to put camel on their paint, you know, put a little mix of green and beige, that kind of thing, and you can do that kind of stuff. But in order to paint it, you have to take it all together, and you have to watch you don't get paint up in the mechanisms. Just like the rust, you can't get rust in the mechanisms. So you're listening to Angel of the Night Radio. I mean, I obviously run a comedy portion and a paranormal portion of my show. This is more of like the home improvement episode, you know, or we'll just say this is the high-tech segment of our show, because we do different segments, we do different things. But this segment is geared on teaching you guys how to remove the rust and work with the Mossberg and put it all together and paint it so it looks right, because most of them come in black blue gun paint, and I really don't like that. I'd prefer if my Mossberg had a cherry red, or green would even look cool, green and black, that kind of thing, but they all come black or dark colored. I've noticed that. And so if you really want to, you can paint it the color you want and put it all back together. It's easy to put back together. Little tricky, but with the rust being gone, it shouldn't be too hard to pop the trigger and all the mechanisms back in there. I had a hard time getting them out because they were so rusty. Oh man. Oh, I am smoking that Critical Kush. 29%, man. Some of the highest quality bud you can get in the state of Nevada. I'm smoking it now during the goddamn fucking apocalypse of the COVID-19. Just kidding, guys. It's not the apocalypse. We as humans will get through this. But be smart, be prepared, and make sure you stay ahead of the game. You're listening to Lord Rick, and we're live here in Carson City. This is Angel of the Night Radio. Let me show you guys how it looks, because you guys really need to see it firsthand to understand what the lemon juice and vinegar is doing right now. I mean, there's pieces of rust just floating everywhere. And it's only been soaking how long? How long since it's been soaking? 10, 15 minutes? Check it out, guys. Look at the color of that, because that's rust inside the barrel. The barrel was the most affected by the rust. But you guys can see, if you guys look, there's pieces floating of rust, and I mean, you don't want that inside your gun. Look at that. So, let's get after it. I will see everybody in 3 days when we go ahead, do a final cleaning of the gun. And then what we'll do is we'll paint it. I'll lube up the trigger mechanism and the barrel a little. We'll put it back together, and you guys will see the final results. I'm really excited to bring you guys this episode of Angel of the Night Radio. We do different segments. You know, there's technical, stand-up comedy, paranormal, interviews. We have so many different elements to our show. Angel of the Night Radio is a very diverse show. And so we hope you guys enjoy this special segment. So before I go, I have one more little trick under my sleeve. Okay, I showed you guys the parts are all soaking. I mean, as you can see it eating away. It's just so amazing to watch just as it's sitting here. But obviously I want to get rid of the rust as much as possible, so if I have to leave this soaking a few days, I will. Not an issue. Show you guys proof that this solution will work. It's very simple, but it'll work, because a lot of cleaning products that remove rust have similar ingredients, just their brand names. I got a pair of pliers here, okay? You guys see them. Look. They're rusted. They're really tight. Oh, man. But anyways, the pliers, they're needle nose pliers. They have a lot of rust internally. They're very hard to squeeze. It shouldn't be this hard to squeeze, but it is. It takes 2 hands to open it. So I'm going to leave it open. I'm going to also throw my pliers on in. We'll see once we pull the pliers, the gun out, we'll see how well the pliers crimp if it loosens it up because of all the rust that's inside. Okay, so we're going to let this fester. Put the lid on it, because you don't want this to evaporate, because that'll be a problem. If you don't have a lid on this and you soak it a few days, You might come out the next day and find out that some of it evaporated, and that's not good. You want to be able to submerge whatever it is that you're trying to get the rust off of. And so you're listening to AngelOfThyNight Radio, guys, and I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you watching. I hope that everybody is safe during this difficult time. I can't imagine what some of you are going through, and I hope that my shows can kind of bring some light into your world, because I know some of you are stuck home. You don't know what to do. You're bored. You want to see more AngelOfThyNight Radio. You want to see something different, something cool. So I'm going to show you guys something really cool. If you're in the shotguns, you're in the guns, this is a really cool project I'm working on. It's one of those, home improvement type of projects, and I like doing home improvement projects, and I need to start maybe filming some things for you guys so you can learn. Because knowledge is invaluable. Knowledge is power. And when I want to learn something, all I have to do is go to YouTube. And so you guys coming to YouTube and watching this, I really appreciate it. Please give my video a like, maybe a comment. Keep it kind, keep it cool, because the moment you're on my channel acting like an ass clown, I just ban you, because I'm not about numbers, not about fame, and I'm certainly not about making money. But I am here to share with you guys a part of myself and who I am and what I do, and maybe along the way on these journeys, or what you call life, you guys can actually utilize some of the things that I teach you. This is Lord Rick, and I'll be back with the final results up in around 72 hours. It depends when I get back from my camping trip up in Marble Canyon, up near the Shoshone Mountains, as we take on more mining camps and ghost towns. So I may end up leaving this for 4 days, 5 days. It really doesn't matter. It's not going to hurt nothing. The lid is on. Everything's submerged. So I will be back in a few days so we can paint this project, put it all together, lube it, and obviously I'll take a toothbrush and I'll make sure if any remaining rust that it didn't get, which I believe it'll get everything, we can just kind of wipe off, make sure it's off the trigger mechanism, put it all back together, and it's gonna be a fine gun once the project completes. Alright everybody, I'll see you in a few days. Be well, be safe, and be kind to one another. This is Lord Rick of AngelOfThyNight Radio. I ended up finding 2 more pieces I left on my desk. This also slides into the where you cock the gun. You can see the slide piece, but there's a lot of little pieces, and I got this little piece. Look how rusted this piece is. In a couple days when I show you this piece, it'll be rust free. Then you're ready to put the gun back together. So we'll let this soak a couple days, guys. This is going on 2 hours now, and you can kind of see it. Actually, the rust is technically coming off. Amazing. Just all from a home remedy. Alright everybody, this has been soaking for about a week. I know I probably shouldn't have left it that long, but considering how terrible the rust was on the gun, it's almost relevant to be able to soak it for that length of time. And I mean, you guys can see I mean, it's definitely free of rust. I mean, yeah, I'm gonna have to probably, take a little brush to it, or a little bit of steel wool, just to make sure I get off anything that's stubborn. But the gun is in here. The water, the vinegar, and the lemon juice should be clear if there's no rust, right? Well, it's not. It is a very brownish orange color, as you guys can see, which means this is good. It means it had gotten a lot of the rust off. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna dry the pieces. I'll dump all this, and then I'll put a towel out, and we'll wipe down the pieces, and then let the internal parts air dry a little bit, and then we can start working on any rust that's remaining. I can scrub it on out as I'm drying it, and then once it all dries, we can paint it, put it all back together, and I'll show you guys the final results, and we'll do it all live on camera so you can learn a little bit of something as well. But first step is getting all the rust off. Well, actually, the first step is taking it all apart and then getting all the rust off, which, I mean, I can tell. I mean, I am amazed, man, how clear. I mean, I can actually, look at that. There was no rust in that barrel. I mean, that barrel was so bad internally, you just lift it up and see brown-orange color in the inside of the barrel. It's not like that anymore. So I would say this is I would say successful mission here in trying to get the rust off. Now we just got to take the steps to put it all back together, paint it, and just, you know, wipe it all down. We'll be back soon as we dry the pieces out. So I have good news, everybody. The lemon juice and the vinegar. The gun has been soaking in the lemon juice and the vinegar. And forgive me if I sound weird, but I'm wearing my mask. I have quite a few of them, actually. Perfect for the COVID-19. But, so if I sound a little weird, it's because it's pressing up against my lips tightly. But there's a real pungent odor. Because here you have oxidation. You have oxidation. You have metal that's oxidized. And then you have it sitting in vinegar and lemon juice for quite a few days. And I did that on purpose because that just means less scrubbing that you have to do. But we're going to clean the barrel. We're going to scrub the pieces. Steel wool. Barrel kit is basically just to, you know, clean the barrel if it needs it. And all we're going to do is we're going to take out, there it is, we're going to take this out. I mean, this is black, obviously, so we're just going to dump it down. It's not going to hurt anything. It's just vinegar and lemon juice now, but by looking at everything, I can clearly see the entire gun has been cleaned without me having to scrub it, which might be a good thing because it's kind of a pain to have to use a wool pad and try to scrub everything out. It's a lot of work, you know. But I'm going to show you guys. I don't know if you guys remember, but I put, remember the pliers that were super rusty? Look at that. These things wouldn't even open or close. I had to use force to open and close them. Look at that. I can almost open these just, look at that. So, it did work great. Now, I had a lot of rust inside the barrel and inside, for example, wow, there is nothing, dude. I don't even have to scrub this shit. You know it got all the rust out of the barrel and the mechanisms because as I got all the vinegar out and now I'm left with just a soot. It's just a soot. And I don't know if I will show you guys. Once I empty this and empty the pieces out of here, I'm going to put them on a towel and let it kind of air dry. And then I'll show you guys the film and the soot that was left behind. And all that is just rust being eaten away. But I mean, this is amazing. And we're going to give the studio some more lighting. Okay, so I got a little more light because I want you guys to really see this. But I mean, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to rinse. I'm just going to rinse the particles and all that off because we're going to let it air dry and then I'll be able to paint it. And we'll probably paint it tomorrow or something like that. Just let it air dry today or a couple days. Just let it air dry. Just be careful it doesn't start oxidizing again. But you know, we'll let it air dry. But you guys can see, I mean, I'm just put a little water. This is not metal, this piece. This is just the stock or the handle, you know, but I mean, everything's going to work a lot better with it being clean. And as I just, even as I wash the handle, you know, I can see all these particles, and look at my hand. Look at that. I'll show you guys. From touching the handle. So you know the vinegar and the lemon juice did its job. Now I may have left it in here a lot longer than most people do. Because I did, you know. I mean, most people are like, oh, just leave it a few hours. No, man, you really want the maximum effect and you can wait and be patient. Let it soak for a few days, you know. Be patient with it. There's no rush in this process. You want it done right. You don't want any rust in the barrel. You don't want any rust in the mechanism. The thing is, it was a lot worse before I filmed it for you guys. Because I already did a pre-soak in some other solution. I lost it in a few hours, but it took a majority of the rust off. But it didn't get it all, so when I filmed for you guys, it was still pretty bad. And so all this did is just, it had gotten all the rust off in the areas that solution I soaked it in didn't do. But now look at my hands, dude. Looks like I've been climbing in a coal factory. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get this off my hands a little. It's probably not going to make a difference because here's the thing. I got a lot to go through, a lot of pieces I'm going to be touching, and I'm probably going to get this black paint or soot or whatever the hell this is on my hands consistently. I had quite the weekend, you know, with the coronavirus going on. You got to kind of find things to do, you know. And so Saturday went fishing with my son, his wife, the kid. Two of their friends, their daughter, and then of course, you know, it was Tammy and I. We had a good time. But I always feel like, you know, I'm getting old. I'm not that 21-year-old headbanger anymore, or that guy could just like have sex with 3 women in one day. You know, I'm not that guy anymore. I'm a little more mellow. I like to smoke a joint, sit back, fish a little, but now I feel like the creepy uncle. You know what I'm saying? I mean, obviously at my age, who has good teeth, right? So you start feeling like the creepy uncle. And I mean, I guess feeling like it and acting like it are two different things, but my daughter-in-law, she's like, I'm going to go pick up my best friend, lady friend. She has a daughter. And, you know, sometimes I'm a little blunt. I'm a little uninhibited, you know, because I don't think about what I say. I'm just a real blunt person. I'm not trying to offend anybody. I just am an open talker. And I yell across the park. You know, there's like 10 other people fishing with their families and shit at the lake. And I'm yelling. I'm like, just ask her if she needs any more kids. People are all fucking looking and shit. But, you know, I felt like I was the creepy uncle. I just did. I did. Even though I'm not a creepy person to be around, people love to party with the good Lord, you know. But that's how I felt. So, you can't help how you're feeling, right? But I mean, I got pretty fucked up at the, you know, you go fishing, you drink, you fucking smoke lots of bud, and that's what happened. I smoked lots of bud. I was partying at the park Saturday. I mean, we did great. I caught a couple 14-inch catfish this size, longer than the cutting board. I took home like 9 catfish and a rainbow trout. Had a really good day fishing, you know. We had pizza at the park and chicken wings and breadsticks. Good time, you know. Everybody was in their chairs. I was smoking lots of bud. I got a little bit fucked up, so I started dancing at the park. And, you know, I always had my pistol on, so it scared people. People were all like talking shit. And the funny thing is, when you carry a gun, people never make it obvious. They like to say comments out loud. And they don't think, hey, I'm standing right here, but they're all talking about, what does he need a gun? Is he going to shoot a little kid? I don't know, dude, but we were at the park and some weirdo was watching my granddaughter and her little friend playing. You know, these girls, only 6, 7 years old. These are little kids. These are little girls. And some fucking creeper, sure enough, was hanging at the park. My point is, you got to watch your kids. And more so with the COVID-19. Because people are just, they're losing their fucking minds, man. There's high-speed chases. People are robbing houses. And I guess my point to all this is, and what I was trying to get down to the meat of things, is that you should have a gun to defend yourself. And this is a Mossberg 500A or whatever. It's a, you know, it's a good SWAT team hunting type of shotgun. You can use it for both. I could change the stock. I could change the barrel. I could get additions. I could, you know, all sorts of little interchangeable things you could get for it. Like I said, I seen a nice long stock for it. So, you know, it just depends on how you want to hold it or whatever. But it's a great gun for additive protection. And so now it looks like I got everything out. This is where the washer went on. And it was just rusty as hell, man. And look at that. Beautiful black stock and handle. Or shoulder rest, or whatever you want to call it. You know, people have different names. But went fishing, had a great time with the family. Just that sometimes things get a little bit weird. Like nobody at the lake or the pond was catching anything. Nobody. You know, I must have caught like 12 fish. I throw some back. But people are all staring and jealous and giving me dirty looks because I got my pistol on and I'm all like fucking dancing and catching fucking rainbow trout in. I'm catching catfish and shit. Oh yeah, it was a good time with the family. I love getting together with the family. I am the total teddy bear, the total family guy, you know. But like I say, you just can't help not feeling like the creepy uncle at the park. You know what I mean? Because you're at the park, and you know you're an old timer when your pistol's sitting on your side and you're just like, I don't give a fuck who's watching, and you're just smoking a bowl out in public because you just don't care. You know what I mean? Yesterday, I went snowboarding. And snowboarding's, you know, always fun. But I'm catching the tail end of snowboarding because right now, there's a couple feet of snow a few feet of snow in some places, but it's getting soft because we're hitting even in the up and around Lake Tahoe area and up in the mountains, and we're hitting some 85-degree days, which melts the snow hella quick, which caused all the rivers to flood out here. And went snowboarding yesterday and went up in the wilderness up by Mount Rose. We hiked about a mile on in. I found some nice slopes. And I would be going a couple hundred feet down the hill, shredding on my snowboard, you know, going left, right. Oh shit, I'm dripping everywhere. Look at that, dude. All that shit. I don't know what the hell that is. I think that's just fucking paint coming off. But it's alright because we're going to repaint it. It is. It's fucking paint. Or rust. Or both. That's the thing. You never want to soak your gun if you don't want to lose your paint. Just as a tip. Since we were painting this and it had lots of rust inside and out, it doesn't matter. I'm not painting the internal piece, it's just the external anyways. But when you take it out, look at this, when you take it out, it's going to get all over your hands. I should have wore some gloves, I didn't. It's not the end of the world. I can scrub my hands really good and get it all out, I'm sure. This piece was completely almost orange. But I went snowboarding in the wilderness, you know, got to be careful because of trees and stuff, but I hit some good hills. Problem is I'd get halfway down the hill and there would be a spot where the sun hit and your board would all of a sudden sink 2 feet into the ground. The whole front of the board, and you'd just like wipe out because your board would just go deeper as you're going down the hill, and the snow would pile this high on your board and you go forward and just wipe out. It's just every time, man, every time. I've only snowboarded a couple times in my life, and I've been able to stay up on my board without falling off. Like yesterday, I got on my board within the first time I get in on my board in almost a year, and dude, I just went down the slopes. No problem. It's like riding a bike. I don't see any rust, man. I thought I was going to need steel wool, but you guys can see. If you guys look, it goes inside the mechanism where up above the trigger, and these pieces also go on into it. This all goes together. But anyways, this piece was almost orange, both pieces. Now they're black and the way they're supposed to be. So, I mean, this is good news, you know. But I mean, if you're gonna put them on a towel, I have a towel. This is an old towel. Tammy likes to dye her hair. Doesn't matter if we get dye on them, whatever. It just doesn't even matter. But we want to make sure that all the pieces get cleaned really well, including with the mechanisms, which had a lot of rust within them. And now that there's no rust, when I paint this gun, put lube on it, it should fire like a charm, man. I mean, like a brand new gun. I can keep 12, I can keep 8 shells of birdshot or whatever in there, and it's good for buckshot, birdshot, whatever, for protection, or it's just, it has a safety, so it'll be ready to go hunting as well. Just put the safety on, you're ready to go hunting, take the safety off, go hunting. Same thing with house protection. Someone's in your house, take the safety off. If they're breaking in your house, just as a precaution. But everything looks good, You guys can kind of see. I'm showing you the pieces to show you that this worked, that there's no rust, none at all, and that's good. That's what you want. I mean, there's a spring inside. You guys are probably not going to be able to see it, but there's a spring inside. That spring's like brand new, dude. That spring was covered in rust. I mean, and this is all it has to do. You don't want no rust internally or externally. Maybe it's all right. Who cares what the outside kind of looks like? But internally, you want things to fire correctly and smoothly and not freeze up and seize up, and you know what I mean? Because that potentially could lead to other issues or even safety risk. So we don't want to risk our safety. We want to clean it good. We want to make sure everything's great on it. The nice thing about the coronavirus is you could go to the store in a Batman mask, dude. A Batman mask, and nobody gives a fuck. I have all sorts of weird masks I've been wearing out in public, and everybody just is like, that is so awesome, because I have some pretty cool masks. But it's really weird, you walk in a bank to go get money, and you go up to a teller and you're wearing a fucking vampire mask, or you're wearing a Frankenstein mask. But, a mask is a mask, and people don't care, because I don't want to get no virus. I don't care what mask you're wearing. Problem I'm afraid is, that people are wearing masks to steal, to commit rape, theft up here. It's getting bad. People are taking advantage of it. Because during travesties, tragedies, pandemics, natural disasters, people up the price of products. They scam other people with fraudulent charities. Then there's, like they just take advantage of the situation. And in this case, with the COVID going on, you not only have the scams, like the stimulus check scams where they pretend to be the government, but you have people wearing masks, and some old lady was robbed of her groceries by a group of masked people in Reno. And it's just like, come on, dude. The masks are here to protect one another, and instead you're using the mask to harm other people. So most of the time I hardly ever wear a mask, but then, sometimes I go out and I wear a mask. It depends what the requirements are. My dentist really wants you to wear a mask. They're not requiring it, but they ask me, I mean, would it be cool if you wear a mask? You okay? I'm like, yeah, I got lots of masks, Because I actually got into my dentist. They were closed, and then they opened up an office, and I had gotten into there to have my gum looked at or whatever. Had stitches months ago, and I mean, it's starting to bother me again, My gum's starting to bother me, so it's like I had to have an appointment the other day, and it's just all this. It's just so strict. They have one dentist. It's a place that has 20 employees, dental assistants, dentists. They had just the one dentist, the assistant, and the receptionist, and she's like the only one man in the front desk. Things are just different. It's like today, if you look, I had my blood drawn. I had to have just general checkup type of stuff. Sorry, I should be cleaning this and not talking. Okay, I found a little bit of rust here. And that could have been based on how it was sitting, so it's not a big deal. But what we want to do is you just see a little rust in here, just take I'm going to lube all this anyway, so it won't really matter too much. But it's under, this is a thick kind of plastic, and then underneath, there's a metal barrel that sits under here, or where it slides in. But anyways, this is a cocking mechanism, so you want to make sure there's no rust internally, but see, sometimes it doesn't get it all, and now you can see it's nice and clear because I scrubbed it. It wasn't hard to scrub. Oh, Good thing I just wiped my fingers along these two mechanisms right here. All this black stuff, and you just want to make sure you get it all off, you know. And this is going to be like a brand new gun. But it looks good so far, you know. So anyhow, I went and I had some blood drawn just for a general checkup. Every 6 months I get it done, make sure there's no diabetes or cancer, things like that. Make sure my cholesterol, that's okay. And I'm pretty relatively healthy, but you go in, it's an old hospital here in Carson. You go in and they have these different entrances. They have nurses. One section is totally different from the other one. Like, one nurse's section, the nurse asks like 10 fucking questions. It's like a whole fucking interview. And they don't check shit. But you go to another part of the old hospital, you walk in, they check your temp, and they basically tell you, they have these huge bottles, like 1-gallon bottles of sanitizer, and they just pump that shit in your fucking hands. Which is good. I mean, you're killing germs, keeping infection down, I get it. But it's just weird how that works, that it's the same building, yet you got nurses on one end who aren't taking temperatures, just asking questions, anybody could lie, while in another entrance, they're taking your temp, they're giving you sanitizer, you know. I have a feeling we're living in strange times. But I just heard a woman spoke because she was afraid that a lot of nurses and doctors are speaking out because they're saying that a lot of COVID-19 patients are being neglected and they're not being tended to, and they're being left. There's an invasive type of, when you use a ventilator, you can use a more invasive way, which is killing people, and they're not, and you don't have to keep an eye on the patient as much, so they end up not being revived and dying, and then they just, you know what I'm saying, they're being neglected because a lot of people don't have the proper gear. A lot of nurses and doctors are like, hell no, I'm just going to leave you on the ventilator and I don't have to come in here the rest of the day, but once or twice to check on you. As opposed to a less invasive type of having you on a ventilator. It's less invasive also means that the staff has to keep an eye on you more. Being on a ventilator more aggressively, we're counting on machines to do a little bit too much. And therefore patients are being neglected. And she said her friend's a nurse, and she said basically in New York City, some people are being murdered. And that may be true, because you have a lot of young people dying that shouldn't be dying that are pretty healthy. I mean, I'm not saying all nurses and doctors are doing this, but they're afraid of losing their jobs, because a lot of people have lost their jobs for speaking out against hospitals having to use the same mask, all nurse or doctors using a mask all day, so it gets contaminated here, and then they go see another patient here and another patient here, and they're spreading the disease themselves. And because they don't have a lot of proper gear, they're neglecting a lot of COVID patients, and some of them are even dying. And the woman spoke out, her friend's a nurse, and she said, you know, what they're doing, she basically was reading and saying everything through her friend, saying that some nurses are neglecting their patients and basically they're murdering their patients. And it's because they don't have the proper gear, because they're told, you know, to put them on a more aggressive type of ventilator so they don't have to keep an eye on them as much. And if they speak out, they lose their jobs. And there's been quite a few nurses and doctors who've already lost their jobs because they're not being supplied with the proper gear. And some people are being, like in nursing homes, just left to die. This pandemic's scaring everybody and making people act in ways that you probably would not act as a nurse or doctor, or even a nursing assistant or whatever at a nursing home. But people are afraid, A, of dying themselves, getting it themselves. Still not an excuse to neglect or let someone die. We all have an obligation to help and save one another. That's all I was trying to say. And sometimes, if somebody can't save you, you got to save yourself. And I always believe in stockpiling firearms and all that, because you just don't know where the world's going to take us. I mean, we just had a 1-mile asteroid pass by Earth. What if that would have hit Earth? Yeah, maybe it would have wiped out an entire continent, but eventually we'd all be affected by it. and it would be apocalyptic, and people would be stealing and raping and robbing and pillaging, because a lot of people would be like, I'm dying, so what's the point? I don't care if I steal, rape, rob, you know. But what matters is retaining your humanity, which a lot of people don't want to retain. Trigger mechanism, now that was really rusty inside, but it's clean now, completely clean. Now we get to the good stuff. Washers, bolts, that kind of thing, you know. But you can see. Because this bolt was completely orange. So things are looking kind of pretty good. You got to put a little bit of TLC into everything you do in life. You got to. So we're just going to continue to clean the gun. Like I say, it's awesome that there's no rust, that it had gotten it all. In this case, I have a nice spray hose, so I can just kind of spray it up. It looks pretty good. It looks like to me everything, all the rust is really off and I don't need to do much scrubbing. Because some people just say soak it for a little bit and then scrub. But, you know, if you want to soak it longer, that's less scrubbing you have to do, correct? And obviously this is the final piece. You guys know what this is. It's all part of the stock and the barrel that I'm wiping down and cleaning. I have a little gun kit. It wasn't as long as I thought. Kind of short. They're like, clean your shotgun with this. Okay, well, here's the problem. It doesn't really go very deep. So just do the best you can, you know. This is not the barrel, but this is what will lock in. And you'll put the, you know, we can paint these pieces too. We will paint this piece. I mean, this has got a little bit of rust, but I don't have to use too much elbow grease. Just gently with the steel wool, and it just all comes perfectly, it's perfectly clean. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you guys how clean this came. I'm kind of surprised, to be honest with you, but again, you are going to get some of that paint. Some of that paint's going to come off. It just is what it is. There's nothing you can do about that, you know. If you're repainting the gun, who gives a shit? There you have it. And this looks, look how clean this is. Alright. It's pristine. Now, one time it was completely orange. So, I mean, you got to be really happy about the results. I mean, this does work. But, you know, going back to the barrel, the barrel's very heavy. And you can see your sight right there and all that, where you aim. We're just going to go ahead, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to And all I really did is I just, you know, along the side, it won't hurt nothing, it's just along the sides of the barrels, get out all that gunpowder. There was a lot of rust, but now that I'm running this like this, it's very clear. I mean, the water's clear, there's no rust coming out. So it looks like to me this gun project is a huge success in getting the rust off. And you know, this is the first aid. We still got to lube it, we still got to paint it, we still got to do all that. And we're not done yet. You want to make sure that you scrub it really good with the steel wool, especially if you're painting it, because there's excess paint on this black paint. And a couple pieces had a little bit of rust, so give it a scrub down because I'm going to do this gun cherry red. It should be interesting. I could do a cherry red and black. I may buy some black paint too and do a combination of both. I haven't decided yet. But you want to keep, the paint will help protect it and keep it from rusting too, to a certain extent. But you guys see, look, done. Look how clean that is and good. This is the pin. This little pin here is what holds it all together. It's the first thing you take out when you start taking it apart. So the pin is no longer rusty. It should slide in and out very nicely. But I mean, you guys can see. Look at it. I mean, there's just this. It's just soot, you know? That's all rust, pieces of rust in here. I just dumped a bunch down, but you shouldn't have any problem. You'll have to scrub this, and obviously you save, I'm going to save the bin for any other guns I work on in the future. And that's really all you have to do. Now what we'll do is you really probably shouldn't rinse this underwater, but what we'll do is I'm going to take another towel and I'm going to pad this down. I mean, like I said, I could let it air dry, but I'll take another towel and I'll pad all the pieces down. And you know, that way we don't like get any oxidation or anything, but you know, there's a lot of paint that came off, so that's what some of what came off is just black rust. Well, here's the front piece. Some of what came off is rust particles, other parts of it are paint. I mean, like I say, there was some black paint. A lot of it was rusted off, but once it's all chipped and the vinegar starts eating away at it, you're going to lose your paint. So only do this if you want to lose your paint. Which, if it's rusty that bad, it doesn't matter at that point, it's going to need a new paint job. You got the basics down of how to clean a shotgun if it's really rusty. This is a really good thing because this is basics right here. This is just basic cleaning. Next step, in a day or two, we'll paint it. I'll lube it up. Put it all back together and I'll show you guys the final results. I'm really excited about this project. All we're doing is just restoring our item. That's all we're doing. And I wanted to show you guys how to restore it because I had forgotten about the Mossberg, and it had gotten pretty rusty and bad. It was seizing up and it was like, I can't fire it. I can't use it for hunting protection. I have more shotgun shells than any other bullet because, I mean, they're so easily obtainable even at a store. At a store, it's the most common type because a lot of hunters out here in Nevada, they use a shotgun for hunting. It's a very common hunting gun. You know, hunt for geese, whatever the case is. Or, I mean, you want some good protection, make sure your shotgun's working the way it's supposed to. And this is Lord Rick, and I'll be back as we finish off this project. Thanks for listening, everybody, and being patient with me. I'll see you guys tomorrow when we decide to paint the Mossberg 500A and eventually put it all back together. It's really going to look beautiful once it's done. And you're listening to Lord Rick live here on Angel of the Night Radio. I'll be back tomorrow, everybody, with more more of this awesome project we're working on. Cleanup also shouldn't be too bad, guys. I mean, it is going to make a little bit of a mess. I have a few black spots here on the floor. It's only because I was carrying the pieces here to you. But I mean, this should come out. My hands are really black. Like I say, it looks like I've been climbing in a coal mine. And so, I take some antibacterial soap and just kind of, do this. You can also take the pad. It'll take this shit out pretty quick, Because I mean, I have a bunch of rust, gunk, and paint on my hands. It was weird, because as I was rinsing the piece, you could just see black vinegar and lemon juice pouring off the pieces. But that's good. It means, you're cleaning the gun, you're getting everything off for painting and all the rust. And so I'm going to scrub with this for a little bit, And like I say, I'm wearing a mask because, it's just a really pungent odor. And you're going to leave a bunch of metal tools and pieces soaking for a week or whatever in this solution. It's going to have its benefits, but just keep in mind, it is going to stink. When you open it up, you're going to be like, what the hell? It's going to smell like a vinegar plant. But I got most of the black out. I got some hazelnut coffee brewing. Nothing like a little hazelnut after cleaning your gun, right? And we'll probably use this for other guns. It's a nice, lengthy plastic tub. Good enough for most guns to soak your guns in. That's why I bought it. Because, you just never know. Sometimes sometimes your guns get rusty and, and it's like you can use elbow grease and scrub all day long, but you're not going to be able to get inside a lot of the mechanisms. And you're going to have to rely on this method to get you through. But it works. That's the thing. It's going to work. And it's going to help. In the long run, it's going to be beneficial. So let that sit here. There's a carpet underneath, so it'll just catch the water. A little kitchen carpet, and then I'll just wipe it down with a paper towel, and it'll be good to go next time. This is a nice little project. If you're staying home with the COVID-19 and the coronavirus, and you have some guns sitting in the closet, you don't know what to do, it's a nice little project. Because the way I see it is in life is, if you're going to be home all day, staying home with the stay-at-home orders, you might as well take on a little extra, I call them extra projects, like going out in the yard, maybe beautifying your rose bushes, planting a garden, trimming the trees, doing stuff that normally you wouldn't have time to do. Like, I don't really care about cleaning a shotgun so much. I have other guns, I'm not suffering, but, it's a project that's a little time consuming, and since I'm home and a lot of things are closed, I figured why not spend a little time and work on it, But you can see my hands are definitely a lot better. They were black. So, it is what it is. Like I say, it's not pretty to have to go through this. Rather than have to go through this, just don't leave your guns in a damp place to begin with, and you won't have to worry about trying to get the rust out of the mechanisms and all that, but, shit happens, man. Now what I'm doing is I'm cleaning up all these droplets on the floor. I have all these little tiny black droplets, because when you drag the pieces on over, they do drip, unless you want to, hold a towel underneath when you bring them on over, but this might be better to do in a garage where there's a wash tub, a wash sink, near a laundry room or a workshop, that type of thing. But since we're in the kitchen today, and I had this little hose thing, so it comes in handy, and then I can get hot water out and wash my hands and stuff. It works out perfect. I mean, like I say, this is not, your wife or your girlfriend may not want you, you know, cleaning your guns here at the kitchen sink area and making a huge mess. I'm sure mine would have had a heart attack, but but it's done. She doesn't see any of the mess. It's just between us mano to mano here on AngelOfThyNight Radio. So thank you guys for listening. I'm going to finish cleaning up the kitchen. It looks like my hazelnut coffee is done, so I'm going to let these pieces finish drying, have a nice cup of hazelnut, and eventually I'm going to put all the pieces in the bin, and then we'll take it to the workshop to be painted next. Everything's a little bit of a process, and it's not going to be an instantaneous thing. Some people want this shit done in like an hour. It doesn't happen that way. You want good work done. You want things, you know, you don't want any rush. You want your gun clean, lubed, painted, all that. These are processes, and they're going to take, each process is going to take a little bit of time to get through. Even like with painting it, you're going to have to let it dry. It's not going to be instant dry. So keep watching, everybody, and come see the magic, because this is going to be magic when I show you guys the final results. Hey everybody, it's October 23rd, 2020, and I told you guys that I would clean my Mossberg shotgun. It was covered in rust because it was left in a place that I thought there was no dampness to. I should have had a case for it or kept it in my gun case. I didn't, and pulled it out, and I'm like, whoa, 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 there's rust. Well, you guys can see, and I mean, if you look really good, you can see there's no rust on it. I mean, the problem is when you start cleaning off rust, if you don't want to have the paint removed off your gun, then you don't remove the rust. And then you can clean it with brushes or whatever. But my gun was so rusty and so bad, I had to soak the whole thing for a couple weeks and really try to get most of the rust out of there and off. And there's a couple stages that we're going to do to the rest of this how-to video. So the first stage was getting the rust off, that kind of thing, scrubbing it down. Second stage is painting it. Third stage would be to lube it up and use some gun oil. And then the fourth stage, of course, is going to be putting it all back together. And then it'll be ready to go if I ever need it. These times are weird. I think shotgun shells are easy to come by. I see them at garage sales. So I own quite a bit of shotgun shells, and this is a really good gun because you can, with this type of gun, you can hunt. The nice thing about it too is it's sunny but cool day. I'm going to be using two different primers here. It's paint and primer. It's important you get both because you're going to want to use both. Some people don't like glossy guns. This is high gloss black. The cherry's not as glossy, but if you look at the tops, this is what the colors are, just cherry red and black. And I wanted to do my shotgun in cherry red and black. And so I'm going to paint my gun. There's not a lot to paint. I mean, some of it's plastic, but I'm going to redo the hand. We'll start with doing the handle first. You really want to make sure when you paint that you're not painting on the insides of the mechanisms, because this has all got to go back together. And you have to be able to take it apart again. And if it's all sticky, it's not going to be good for, see, it's getting a little windy out. So what I'm going to do, if it's not, let's see if I can push this in a little, or use the chair to kind of hold it there. There we go. And I can do, overlap this or whatever I need to do. But we have a few parts that we're going to be painting on this gun. Okay? I don't care about the inside. I mean, the inside is the barrel, you know, you have the barrel and everything else. I don't care. We're not going to paint that. This is just an exterior coat I'm putting on. Nothing fancy. It'll probably only take a few minutes to do, but I figured you guys would be really interested in seeing how it's done. And I have these bolts that I set up so I can rest each metal piece on the bolts so it's not sticking to the plastic, because you want it to dry. And then if it's, you know, if I end up having to put a second coat, a third coat, we'll do that. But you guys only need to see the first coat and how it's done, and then you can paint, take your Mossberg apart, and I'm going to show you how to put it back together. I didn't show you how I took it apart, but I will show you how to put it back together. So if you watch that tutorial, it's just in reverse. Mossberg tactical shotgun is very intricate parts-wise. I mean, there's a lot of little tiny parts and things like that, but sometimes it's good to take it apart and clean your gun. See, the thing is, I don't plan on ever using it other than for protection or necessary hunting. So it can sit in my gun cabinet for 50 years and it's still going to fire the same. It's just, we want it to look good in the gun cabinet, so that's why we're painting it, because I could put it all back together right now and use it, So we're going to start off. I'm going to pull out some latex gloves. If you don't want to get paint on your hands, I suggest, because paint's hard to get off unless you have the appropriate, they sell this, well, I used to use when I was younger, paint thinner, but it's really not good to use on your skin. But they do sell soaps with, it's a little gritty and you can scrub the paint off. However, if you wear gloves, you don't have to worry about none of that. So we can have fun with this. And we can all pretend to be doctors today. My hand's probably too big for the glove, to be honest with you. And so, being that it's COVID time, we may be on the brink of civil war, and there's a lot of violence and mobs and just all kinds of crazy shit in 2020, you probably should have at least one working shotgun in the house, because it's a reliable weapon. It's easy to make the shells, the black powder in, and it's very easy to come across shotgun shells too. I mean, that's the one thing they don't ban off a lot of store shells is shotgun shells. Let's just be honest here. The problem is, I mean, shotguns are only really good at a short distance, so you could hunt with them, but it's a little, I mean, you got to use the right shot, because you have buckshot, I mean, you have birdshot, so you have to use the right gun based on if you're hunting or you're looking for something for protection. I got shells for bird, I got birdshot, but I also got some pretty high-powered shells as well, in case I, needed self-defense. We'll start off small. I'm going to start with the handle, and then I'm going to put it up like this. Okay, as a matter of fact, I'm just going to put it up like this. Now. And I'll take this away because, honestly, I want you guys to have a clear view of how everything looks. And I don't know if this is going to stand up, to be honest with you. I was looking at it, and it just keeps wanting to tip. But we'll try our best, It's just plastic. It's just something you have to bear in mind. But this is Rust-Oleum. I honestly, I love Rust-Oleum. There's a lot of good brands. Rust-Oleum's up there with them. This is 2x Ultra Cover, High Gloss Ultimate, and it bonds to plastic. This is a type of plastic. So is this. Okay, the rest of the gun is all metal. Okay, and our cherry red is definitely for metal. But this bonds to plastic. It's 2x the cover, and it's ultras. Because we don't need to put a thick coat on it, but we do need to, we do need to put a coat, and we do need to at least, get the plastic. It's so dingy looking and worn. We need to get it back to the way it was. And you're going to want to hold it really close. Personally, try not to snuff the fumes unless you're like me and want to fly like an eagle into the sea and let my spirit take me. No, I'm just kidding. But you put a thin coat. This is bonds to plastic. That's why I bought it, because a lot of the guns nowadays are made. I have an AR. It's made completely out of plastic. Great gun. I mean, it has laser dot sight. You could shoot a tin can at 300 feet away. It has no recoil. Hardly makes a sound. It's pretty quiet. Great weapon to defend yourself with and hunt. My shotgun took a lot of beatings in the Sierras. I used to carry it hiking back before they passed all these strict gun laws in California. I'd go up in California, and I would hike 20 miles in the mountains. I'd climb the backside. I would climb some cliffs and peak with the shotgun over my back. A couple shells in my pocket just in case we ran into a mountain lion that was rabid or that kind of thing. I mean, usually it's pretty quiet in the mountains, but there's a lot of, after hearing a lot of stories from other people and seeing a lot of video of mountain lions basically growling and getting in people's faces, it's like, whoa, whoa, you know, if you had the shotgun and you fired it up in the air, they don't like sound, they'll run off. You don't have to kill anything, but you do got to have some kind of protection or something to scare a bear, an angry bear, or, you know, a carnivorous rabid mountain lion, for example. Or they even have those wolverines up there, and I mean, they'll attack a bear. They're just relentless. But shake the can really good. You're going to want to do that. I put plastic down. And you're going to see. Beautiful. Beautiful. And like I say, we're probably going to end up doing a couple coats. It's a very cool day. It is somewhat sunny. I expect in an hour or two this to almost be dry. Okay? So that's the first step. Okay? And I'm putting this all on the table. I don't know if you guys can see well enough, but this is another plastic piece. It's got some metal built into it. You don't want to get anything on these pieces here. I mean, you really don't. The barrel's going to probably be cherry red. What I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to paint the black on this, and I'm going to turn it around and paint this area cherry red, just because it's going to be sitting on top like this. Okay? So actually it's going to be sitting underneath like this, and I'll show you just to give you an idea of how it's going to look. There's two bolts right here it grips onto underneath, right here and here, and it just kind of sits there. And of course then you'll have the other barrel running through it too, like this. It's just all, you know, it doesn't look like much. I mean, when you sit here and you look at it, you're like, that was a gun? You got a bunch of pieces here. And I have a whole bag. I have a whole box with other pieces to this gun, but those parts don't need to be painted. So, because I know some of you gun owners are looking like, where's the rest of the gun? It's not all out here. We're just, you know, we're just painting it right now. But anyways, there's that. So we're going to put a coat of Rust-Oleum on this as well. Just real thin back and forth like this. It's just not balanced very well. But a couple coats, not going to hurt nothing. You know, I'm drenching it in this because, let me tell you another reason why you have to paint your gun. Because it protects it from rust. And if you paint the outside and it protects it from moisture, it'll help out with preserving the gun longer and making it work the way it's supposed to. My problem was that it was seizing up. I couldn't cock it. It has this mechanism on top. This is the safety feature. Rusted completely. And so the way around that is you can put a different. The nice thing about the Mossberg is you can upgrade it with different parts, and so you don't have to go with this safety. You can actually buy a trigger that has a safety built into it, which is what I did, because I just could not deal anymore with this thing being so hard to move up and down. It was always sticking. Always sticking. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to paint. What we're going to do is I'm going to move this over. See, I have these bolts, and it's just to keep it from it's just to kind of keep it here. We'll do it over here, but the bolts keep it from off the plastic a little so it can dry and not stick to the plastic. You can't really see it, but it's about a quarter inch off and not touching the plastic. And so what we'll do now is once we're done with applying the coats of black, we'll start working on the cherry red. It's going to be a nice looking gun when it's done. And yeah, I've hardly ever used this gun. I remember when I bought it in Florida, it was about like around $280, and it was one of the first guns I ever owned. As a matter of fact, it was my ex-wife that had owned it, and when she did not want to pay storage dues, the judge gave me everything, so I ended up inheriting this shotgun. And it wouldn't matter if even if I didn't inherit it, I'm part of a lot of different gun sites as a good customer because I own other guns, and I can almost get a shotgun even better than this at about $125. So shotguns are relatively cheap. It's pistols and revolvers nowadays that are going up in price. People want to carry something around for self-defense or concealed, and this is kind of hard to carry concealed. A shotgun is a much cheaper gun than, let's say, buying your typical standard pistol. Because I mean, I look at guns all the time, and some handguns are $600, $700, $800. A really good one is. And with shotguns, it's, you know, you got a little bit. You could get a decent shotgun, like I say, $130 to $300 out the door. Shotgun's a good way to go, but you want your shotgun to look cool, right? You want to, I mean, you could do camo, you could do all sorts of stuff. It's your gun. But in this case, we'll do the red and the cherry black. It should look nice. So we're going to put the black on. Okay, so we put a coat on top. And now what we're going to do is we're going to switch it around like this. Again, keeping it off the table a little. The other thing is, this is going to freeze your trigger up anyways, or your safety. So it's better to buy a trigger that has a safety built in, because the trigger doesn't need to be painted or the safety. But see, this is already rusted, so you can paint over it. That way it kind of hides it a little and it doesn't look all, you know, out of whack. But we're going to let this dry. You can see it's a very glossy black. It almost looks, now that I paint it, almost looks brand new. Okay, so we're going to start working on the barrel next. Barrel's much heavier. Just something to bear in mind, that it's, you know, this is where the metal is, and the metal is what you're going to be painting. I'm going to go ahead and just do both sides, this time with the cherry red. As a matter of fact, I'll sit down to do this one. Again, you're going to want to shake it. Oh man, fuck you. Oh yeah, that's bright. Look at that. That's sharp looking, man. You guys can kind of see. It's kind of hard because you want to get every nook and cranny. And that's not always easy to do because this shotgun on the top has ventilation holes. I mean, a lot of times when you fire this, you'll see smoke coming through the holes. It's pretty cool, and out the barrel. But we don't want, you notice I'm not facing it into the barrel. It's just cosmetic, a cosmetic coat on top is what we're doing. And if you have time in between, you know, you might want to hit the bong. I mean, this is not, you know, this is one of those things that I don't have a manager saying, hurry up and get those painted and get working on the next gun. Take your time with it. This is, you know, your gun is your gun. And if you're going to paint it, Paint it like you paint a classic car. It's a, you know, you could put a baby blue on it, or a pink for a girl, you know, for a lady that might own the shotgun. Or if you like camo, you can do desert camo. Whatever you want to do. You can buy camo in a can. They sell that shit. It's pretty cool, by the way. I almost thought about doing it, but I thought, man, it'd be sweet to have a cherry red and black shotgun. All the more reason to celebrate, get stoned, to, you know, burn one. Because I gotta have to let this dry, and I'm gonna have to put, obviously, more coats. Because I can see it dripping off. And it's not a big deal. Like I say, you can let it dry after a couple hours, or till, like, I may let this sit till tomorrow, and then tomorrow I'll come out and maybe put a second or third coat. I've already put a couple coats in front of you. It's primer and it's paint. You can put a couple coats on. I noticed there was some thin spots, and now they're covered up because I put another spray. Try to do it evenly and just go back and forth with it. If you notice, I focus on this area because the paint, I mean, even though the rust is off, it's still orange in color. This is where the lock-in piece goes at the end. And you're not going to see that, but you do see the end piece in the front. And so you don't want that to be orange. You want it to be cherry red, so I gave it a little bit extra. Baby, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm just kidding. Of course, some of you probably think I'm not, huh? We get people like that all the time. That Lord Rick did this and that on his show. I want to thank you guys for watching my shows. I mean, I try to bring you guys a little bit of everything. I bring you sports and basketball. I bring you documentaries, interviews, how-tos, cooking shows, comedy shows, trips to ghost towns, extreme off-road. I just bring you guys a little bit of everything. And, you know, this little gun video, it's kind of a little pet project for me. And I was like, well, why not share it with my fans? Why not share it with my friends? Everybody needs to know how to take apart a Mossberg or put it together, or maybe clean a gun, or if it's, because sometimes you buy a gun at a place, it's super rusty, and you got to clean it, right? But I've taught you how to clean the gun, how to paint the gun. I'm going to teach you how to put the gun back together. And you won't necessarily have the same gun, but you'll have a little bit of an idea that you can do what I just did. So if you look at a gun, you're like, oh, it's hopeless, it's too rusty, I might as well just get rid of it. Or, you know, I don't like the colors. You can change the colors. You can clean the rust off. You know, and there's natural ways to do that. So we're going to switch this back around, and we're going to do the other side. Like I say, we may have to put on another coat, but at least we're getting somewhere. Now this side has hardly been done, so we'll put a coat on here, just back and forth, up and down like this. If it starts to look a little thin and you want it thick, shake the can. More than likely, I'm going to have to let this dry and do another coat. I can still see some metal, and the red is not entirely covering it up, and so there's a little bit of a silver hue behind it. So don't be afraid to put a couple layers, but also the main thing is don't be afraid to be patient with it. You got all day long. The apocalypse isn't coming tomorrow, at least that I know of. And so don't be afraid to, like, let this dry overnight and then come out and do the same thing, coat everything again, because you may have missed a spot. And the thing is, if it's runny, and it's very runny, I've shaken it, the coat will be so thin because the paint will keep rolling off, because it keeps rolling off. And I can see, I'm just studying, and I can kind of see the metal, I can kind of see metal through it. So we may have to You know what I'm saying? We may have to put more coats on. And if that's the case, that's fine, you know. We have all day, like I say. But it's a beautiful cherry red. I'm going to be careful with this. It's starting to stick, see? Yeah, it doesn't even want to stand anymore. So what we'll do is we'll kind of lean it up against the can a little. But I mean, because it's drying, it seems almost dry already on the handle. Me touching it didn't smear it. I was looking, I was like, oh shit, I smeared it. But it doesn't matter because I'm going to put another coat. But you can see, look how beautiful this looks. See, it's sticking. Like brand new, man. It's like brand new, and I'm going to show you. Look at that. It's pretty cool. I mean, it's just to give you an idea. And of course, you know, the next time I'm on video will be when I'm lubing the gun and putting it all back together. Notice I'm putting a lot of coats on this. Why? Because we want it to be eye-popping. You know, we want people to look at it and be like, bang, in your face. And I'm not talking about shooting somebody in the face. I'm talking about kind of like, you ever go to an auto show, you see classic cars, and some are blue with pink flames, or red and with orange flames, or that kind of thing. It's real eye-popping because people come up with the wackiest of color combinations that you might think, hey, what the hell? I've never seen a car painted those colors. But when you take a couple colors, you mix them together, one color makes the other color pop. And so that's what I'm doing. Black and red is the Paranormal Ghost Society's colors. It's the colors of the sports teams I coach, color of my basketball team, our jerseys, everything is just red and black, red and black, red and black logos. So I don't know if you guys noticed that, because they're probably like, well, why red and black? It's not just because it's eye-popping. Red and black are my favorite colors. I own a lot of red and black stuff at home. So I like eye-popping, and I think red and black really go good together, even for a gun. Really looks good on a gun. I've seen a few pistols even with like a red handle and a black barrel, that kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty good. So we're going to let this dry. I mean, it's all we can do, but you can see now if you look how much thicker it is. Before, when I first put the first couple coats, it wasn't as eye-popping. It wasn't very cherry red because you could still kind of see the metal behind it, which is kind of a silverish color, and so it wasn't looking right. Now it looks good, but it's going to have to dry. This puddle here, it's going to happen. Just let it dry. It's on plastic. It's not going to hurt nothing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off. Well, no, I'm going to move this over. Now that this is dry and it's starting to stick a little, so it's good to move it over. And we're going to go ahead. This is sticking too. So we're going to go ahead and you have to be careful. You really do, because see, I'm going to do it in opposite directions, but it's sticking. So right now what I'm going to do is just, I don't really want to mix the red here, so we got to be careful. I'm going to put one this way and one the opposite way. Very sticky when this stuff starts to dry. I mean, it's paint, you know. There we go. Now it's lifted up a little. So this is going to be red also, this barrel, this long barrel. We'll do the same thing. I'll paint it, turn it over, give it a couple more coats of paint, and that way, you know, the cocking mechanism, the handle is black, the barrel's red, and then where you put your ammo, where the ammo case where you load your ammo and the trigger area will be black. So, you know, nice. It's not overkill. You know, it's just two different colors, red and black. When I bought the Mossberg, it was all black. The whole thing was black, which I kind of didn't really like anyways. So all we have left to do though is this right here, and then we can just let it dry, and then maybe later tonight come out, everything will be fully dry. I'll turn it over once or twice, and you know, put that last coat on, that last coat. You have to be careful, because see, I'm getting too close to the, you don't want to get too close to where you painted the black. But you can kind of see this. If you watch when you spray, you can see where you're spraying, the stream where it comes out. So you just be careful a little bit. But it looks beautiful. I mean, it really looks good. And this is, I mean, this gun's gonna look really nice in the cabin. You're not gonna see too many guns like this. People are gonna be like, what kind of gun is that? But it's just a Mossberg. My son, this is my son's BB gun. This thing shoots metal BBs at about 1,800 feet a second. In other words, if my son's BB gun, if you were to hunt with this BB gun, you could take out rabbit, small game, squirrel, rabbit, whatever. You could injure a person too for self-defense if you had a good shot and you shot him in the eye or the face. That'll make them think twice running towards you. But this also got damaged. This barrel got damaged. And notice that the rust ate all the paint on the barrel. Just this. And so we're going to also paint that as well. This is some really good stuff, you know. I mean, maybe this video may come in handy for some of you. It's not going to come in handy for all of you. Not everybody that watches YouTube owns guns or paints guns or, you know, assembles them or whatever. Just another coat. It's okay to use it. If I have to use a whole can on each, I will. Because I want this stuff on nice and a couple coats, nice and thick. Probably a few coats. We don't want the paint to come off when we're using it. You know what I'm saying? We want the paint to stay on if we ever use a shotgun. Now, like I said, I have other guns for self-defense and hunting. I got a rifle with a scope for hunting. I'll probably never use this for hunting. But again, it'll look nice in my cabinet painted if I want to display it. So, we got that done. Kind of prop that. So I put another coat of black. And what we're going to do is we're going to just rotate it. Just turn it around. Nothing extreme. We'll put a coat of black on this. Because, you know, here's the thing. Things are gonna... Paint's gonna come off a little when you're painting. It's just paint, you know? It rolls off, it runs off. No paint is overly thick, I find, and sometimes you got to put a couple coats. It just depends on the paint and what you're painting. We're painting metal and plastic. I mean, it's not exactly, when you paint metal and plastic, it's not an everyday thing. People paint fences, they paint walls, but people don't usually paint pistols and guns and metal. I mean, but I find out, like, I go to a lot of garage sales and we look and we see a lot of vintage metal shells and things, and we look, we're like, damn, it's rusty. And then I think, well, you know, one coat of this, I mean, it'll protect it from moisture, and you know, you could buy it and just make it a little pet project. And that's what this gun kind of is to me. It's a little pet project. I'm putting a different trigger system on, a much smoother safety, so that way I'm not having to, you know, in a case of protection, I can just push it in real quick and bam, it's ready to fire 8 shells. Now we had some run off, and it's causing these drip marks. So I had to really put it on thick. You make sure you get it on all sides. See how I'm hitting it from the side? It's not going to be pretty. It's going to have to dry. But it's going to look good. It's already looking good. I'm looking at this gun like, holy shit, I don't even recognize it, you know? I mean, what a difference some coats make. And so I'm going to pull it away, and I'm just going to kind of show you guys what we've done here. Okay, got the handle sitting here, the barrels red, the stock area black, along with the trigger, or along with the I said trigger mechanism earlier. You know what I meant. The pump action throttle, which basically you'll just pump it. You know, you just cock it like this, and it's loaded. It's ready to go. So, and this is what you'll grab. So I don't know how it's going to be because I'm painting this. I don't know if it's going to be sticky when I grab it. Maybe once it dries, fully dries, it might be just glossy. We'll have to see how it feels. You know, I've never really painted a gun, but I've read a lot of reviews about using this to paint guns, and people have some good things to say about it. So, you know, just give it an extra coat. I mean, don't be afraid. It's not going to hurt. But I mean, that's about all we can do right now. My son's barrel can be painted. And it's just the barrel part. It's not like I have to do the whole gun, really, but just a little bit of the barrel. It's a rifle, so it stands up without me having to put something to hold it up, because it's not in pieces. And this end is much more heavier, so it stays. But anyways, I'm just giving his barrel a little coat of paint. And that's all, you know. And you guys can see, looks like brand new. The corrosion had taken the whole paint off from here and on. There was no black paint. And then there was other spots, like along here where it was coming off. I just covered them completely up. And I cleaned this barrel too. I had it soaking on. And when I got off the rust, I'm like, oh shit. So I ended up also painting the barrel of the BB gun without having to take it apart. It's just a BB gun. I don't have to oil it or clean it. I mean, it looked really tacky that half of the barrel was black and the other half, you know, it was black here, and then all the way up it was all corrosion. You know, you could see where corrosion had ate all the paint off. Moisture is the worst thing. When you have a gun, it's the worst thing for it. You don't want moisture around your guns. Like, don't keep them in a dank basement. Don't put them in an attic. If you're gonna store them somewhere, keep them in either a gun case or a gun cabinet. I have 2 gun cabinets, and I have a gun safe too. But the problem is that I don't always store my guns in those places. Sometimes I like to hide them or put them here or put them there or put them in storage or whatever the case is, and then this kind of shit happens. You're like, fuck, you know? You're like, why didn't I just keep it on me in a dry place? You know, that kind of thing. But you don't think about it at the time. You know, sometimes, I mean, it's not like I walk around with shotguns every day, you know? And sometimes you just, you know, you put away, you get a new gun and you stop playing with this gun and you go play with the new gun for a few years and realize, what happened to my shotgun? Oh, it's stored away, and you find out that it has moisture damage. And That's what it is. I stored this away and it had gotten moisture damage. So for now, this part of the tutorial is done. See, it's starting to wear off. But it's drying as it's wearing off. So you can cover up, because you're going to see, here's the thing. When you paint this and you come out in an hour, you're going to see where some of it had dripped off. Or when it dries, you're going to see that it didn't cover up certain spots. You're going to have to give it, it's spray paint. You're going to have to give it more than one coat. This is not spray paint on a white wall, you know, where it just stands out. You're trying to cover up corrosion where there was rust and corrosion, and you're trying to put it over metal. And metal is kind of stubborn to paint. So you know, don't freak out if you have drip. Like I had a bunch of drip lines on both sides, but it's almost it's sticky, so it's drying, and I just put another coat, and it's not, those drip lines are gone. I erased them. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take off my gloves. You guys can see I don't have anything on my hands. It's kind of funny, sometimes I have all these rings I like to wear, and I wear them with gloves, but some of my rings are sharp, so I'll be wearing gloves, and my devil ring with the horns will like peek its horns through the gloves, like stab right through the latex. But I don't want to get anything on my rings or my hands, and I mean my hands are clean, they're clear. So we did the barrel, we got all the barrels done, you know, cherry red, black, 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 and then of course the handle black. And that's all we can do at this point, is let nature take its course, let it dry. Tomorrow I'll come out, I'll put another coat of, that's not going to be on video because, I mean, I'm sure you guys don't want to see me put a second coat. When we start putting the gun together, I will show you how the red and black came out and the final results, and then I'm going to put it all back together and show you what it looks like put back together with the new trigger mechanism. And hopefully you guys will find the video useful, because a lot of people don't realize that with the Mossberg, you know, your safety's on top, but they were defective. They were having trouble. It was hard to put the safety on and off. It would get stuck, and then you couldn't pump the shotgun, that kind of thing. And it just got worse over time, and then, you know, it got dirt from hiking and all that. The newer Mossbergs, the safety's on the trigger. And you can take the trigger from the newer Mossberg, from the next model above this, and put it on this Mossberg here. And so basically, all I'm doing is painting the gun and upgrading it. Alright guys, well I want to say peace. Thank you for watching Angel of the Night Radio. This is your host, Lord Rick. And we just did a nice paint project on my Mossberg shotgun. Stay tuned for the final segment of the show. And I want to wish everybody a very safe and happy Halloween. Hopefully there's no zombie apocalypse, but if there is, this is the gun you want to carry. This gun is great for hunting, great for self-defense, and it'll blow the heads off of zombies like no tomorrow. But if you're going to hold this shotgun, at least do it in style, right? And red and black is definitely some style. Alright everybody. Peace out. I'll see you soon. Peace out, everybody. Hey, everybody. We're back with our final segment of the show, and you're listening to AngelOfThyNight Radio. I'm your host, Lord Rick, and sometimes I like to do how-to videos. Sometimes we do sports videos because we have the Paranormal Ghost Society Phantoms, so I like to share our basketball and athletic venues on YouTube. Other times we'll share ghost towns, urban explorations, paranormal investigations. Right now, I've just been so busy building my basketball team and practicing through the COVID that that's all we've really been bringing our subscribers. So, you know, just sit tight because we have a lot of different types of videos coming out in the future, such as radio shows, how-to videos, basketball practices and games, and then of course ghost towns and extreme off-roading and exploration. So just bear with us because I'm only one guy. It's really hard to do a lot of a lot of the things that I do, because like I said, I'm one guy running the whole show. But today, we're going to finish up the video. You guys remember I cleaned my shotgun. My Mossberg shotgun was extremely rusty. And what I had to do is I taught you a very organic way to remove the rust. And then all I did is I repainted it. You guys can see it looks pretty good, huh? But it's in pieces. It does me no good in pieces. And so today, what we're going to do is I'm going to teach you how to reassemble it. I didn't do a how-to video how to take it all apart, but if I put it all together, you just do it in reverse. It's really simple. But there are a lot of little pieces. It's kind of intricate, so you know we do have to be careful here. And of course I'm going to show you, I'm just showing you the paint job. It came out good. It's cherry red. And then a nice shiny black, and you guys can kind of see the shotgun is going to be red and black, cherry red and black. That's how I wanted it to be. But before we start doing anything at the moment, now that I have the gun apart, I'm going to oil it. And see, you don't have to be stingy with the oil. I just got this gun oil. It's pretty good. But oil down your guns. Because a lot of people, they don't understand when you start shooting your gun, it starts getting a little tighter and all that, and it's good to oil it really well. That way, this oil will last for years. So even if you don't shoot it, that's fine, but you got to have oil in it so it's ready to shoot. Especially a shotgun, because shotguns get all stiff. At the same time, I'm making Catalina slow-cooked chicken in the crock pot. Of course, you guys have already, I think I've already done a cooking video on Catalina chicken. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I did. Okay, here we go. They don't make these things easy. Don't be afraid to use the oil a little bit and just put a little in here. We're going to start with that. Because we want to oil down the pieces. And every time I put a piece in, I'll oil it down just a little bit. Because it's important. But anyways, this is your receiver. You guys can kind of see it has 2 holes. And it's going to go right down into the shotgun, obviously. I put a little extra oil, so I'm just kind of dabbling it on the pieces. We don't want to waste the oil. But on the shotgun, you guys, there's a hole on each side. Actually, there's a bolt that goes in the top hole that locks it all together so nothing falls apart. And then on the bottom hole, you have it goes all the way through. And this has 2 holes. So all you're going to do is pop in the receiver. You're going to have to squeeze it a little bit and just don't be too rough with it, And you're going to pop that down in there. And I brought a flashlight because you want to see what the fuck you're doing, right? What you want to do is you're going to want to line up the holes. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to go in there and be lined up with the holes. And it is lined up with the holes. It's not going to, from my experience, it's not going to stay. Okay, so I popped it in and the holes are lined up. So anyways, I put the elevator in. I called it the receiver, I apologize. But that piece that you seen, it basically, what happens is you line up the holes right here. You put the elevator in. We have the elevator sitting in here. But what's going to happen is we're going to put the bolt on it. I'm going to put it this way so you can kind of see what's going on. You're not going to be able to see the inside. I can kind of show you how it looks up close. And I can even hold a flashlight to show you guys as we're coming along. Because this is, the thing about YouTube videos is a lot of people are like, let me see, it's hard to see. But, you can see it's basically empty right now. We're putting all the mechanisms back on in. So, but you guys can see there's 2 holes. And the bottom holes is where the elevator is going to lock on into. So next what we're going to do is we're going to take the fore end. A little bit of oil is not going to hurt on this either. And we're going to put a little, just put oil like this. See what I'm doing? Just a little bit across. Some people might say, hey, that's too much oil, but you know what? This has a lot of working mechanisms. And you don't want this thing to freeze up if you're hunting or you're trying to use it for protection. You know, with the way things are in America right now, there's civil unrest with the Trump and Biden elections. Somebody always loses. It's just that the division in this country is so bad. You know, it's good to have your guns ready to go, protect in case there's some civil war or whatever the case is. But we're going to take the fore end. Okay, this goes along over the magazine tube. You see, just like this. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put it on here. This is not going to be easy because you see, I painted it. Okay, I had a little trouble getting it on, but you'll see there's two holes, and you're going to want to line them up, see, and it'll all start to go back in together. You got to be careful because I put a lot of thick paint, and so it's not going to go it's going to have to take time to loosen up a little because of the paint. You know, just cocking it a few times, that kind of thing. But I put oil on the barrel too because this has got to slide all the way over. And there's these slots. There we go. You heard it click? That line up with this too. I mean, it'll all start coming together. The problem is I put a lot of paint on it, and it's just so thick it's hard to get this on. And it's going to take a little bit of cocking and a little bit of work to get it to go because of the paint job I put on, and I had to put a few coats. It is a very difficult paint job because I put this one coat and the stuff is just so runny on metal. What I'm saying is that after you're done painting it, you may have some trouble getting the forearm back on. But we got it locked in. I'm going to show you what it looks like. Just step by step. So you can kind of see. And this is even a better view. But you can see it locks on in. These little tabs will lock in. That's what you're going to use to cock the shells. And cock the shotgun, I should say. So everybody, I got the fore end on. Like I said, if you paint it too thick, you're going to have trouble getting this on. I had to hammer it on, lube it up. I scraped some of the paint off. You know, it happens. But you don't want to put too thick of a paint coat, and that's why. So, you know, there's lessons to be learned here. But anyways, it's on, it's locked in. On the fore end, you have these two tabs. And when you put it in, there's a hole on each side. One on this end, one on this end. And the tabs will go into the holes, and you'll look inside. It's kind of, I can't show it to you really on camera. I'd have to have it really close and lit up. But I'll show you what it looks like. But there's these grooves that it locks into. I know it's really difficult to see, so I'll hold it really close. But you can see the arms of the fore end have locked inside. So it looks pretty good. You watch your bolt, it kind of slides back and forth, but so you can kind of see, if you look carefully, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect, but you can kind of see how the bolt inside, the fore end, and the elevator all are locked in now. So we're starting to get mechanisms back inside. We don't have any more to go. This is not a complicated shotgun. It's actually quite easy to put back together. But like I say, the other thing is we're putting a new trigger on. This is the old trigger, and this is the new trigger, okay? Normally the safety is built on top of the Mossberg, but with this trigger, the safety is built into the trigger itself, because what happens is they tend to be hard to take the safety on and off. It's not just a simple little switch, and they get stuck. And you don't want to have a gun that's stuck not on safety where it won't go back on the safety. So that's another thing we're going to be doing today. I'm going to be putting in a new trigger mechanism. It'll work. It's universal. I picked up a universal one. This actually works on 2 different Mossbergs, but it works on this Mossberg shotgun, so that's why I picked it up, because we're going to throw the old mechanism out. I mean, I actually keep the old mechanism. The problem is, it's got no safety on it, which makes it kind of unsafe. Some people like that because they can just grab it real quick, and they're on a farm and they got coyotes or something. They want to shoot their gun and grab it real quick instead of cock it. They might just be like, you know what, I got it ready to go. No safety, I'm ready to shoot. But you want to be safe. It only takes a second to take the safety off, so why not build something with the safety just in case? Always keep your guns locked in a gun safe, gun cabinet, whatever the case is. You can buy a gun lock with a key. You can get them free at the police station. So whatever you want to do, it's your choice. This just screws on top. Almost forgot about this piece. And it's finally starting to look a little bit like a shotgun. The paint made it kind of hard to put on. Sometimes if it's hard to screw on because you painted it, because I painted this piece black, so it can kind of have some contrast with the barrel, the cherry barrel rather. May have to take the brush a little. Now let's see how it screws in. Oh yeah, it's a little easier. So put the cap on. I call it the cap, but we put it on the end. So next step is I'm gonna put this barrel on, okay? And then we're going to cap it off to hold it in place. It's pretty easy. It's not a complicated gun. But if you don't have things locked in the grooves right, it's not going to work. The gun's not going to work right. You're not going to be able to even put it together, really. And this might be kind of hard because you got to wiggle it on in there. So I had some problems getting on the main barrel, because this is where your buckshot's going to come out of, is the top, not the bottom. The bottom has a cap, and what this cap does, you guys can see, it's this black cap. It screws in and locks it all together, so that way your barrel doesn't come flying off when you're shooting, because that would be really bad. You guys can kind of see it's starting to look more like a gun now, right? The problem is that I put thick paint on it, and so it made it kind of harder to put back together. And so you just got to kind of pound it out until the paint scrapes off a little bit in the grooves. And that's what I'm doing. And I've just been working on it. But we almost got the whole gun back together. And I mean, in a matter of a few minutes, this gun will be ready for firing. Okay, so I got the gun together now. You see? It's all together. And we're going to put the lock piece on. It's just this little bolt that twists by hand. If you can't get it by hand, and when you're watching this segment, you may wonder why there's breaks in between. It's because I got some paint on some of the parts. Not anything major, not anything with the trigger, but the barrel itself. And so I have to take time out to scrape the paint off, so that way I could retrofit it all together. It's kind of hard to do. It's like I got to pound it out, scrape it all off. It's a process. But if you can't get this, you can always use some pliers That way you can kind of get it to, you want to make sure this is fairly tight. Like I said, you don't want the barrel ended up flying off. It kind of keeps things together so that, there we go, so that way if you shoot the gun, the barrel doesn't fly off and then it just explodes in your face and you get buckshot in your face and shit. I mean, safety is very imperative when you put back together your guns. You got to make sure it's done right. You're putting live ammo and live rounds in here, but it is all back together. I mean, you guys can clearly see it is all one piece, and it doesn't look too bad, does it? I mean, it's going to need a little. I nicked it a few times trying to pound it all in, but it's a decent gun, and it does look good with the black and the cherry red. Red and black is also the team colors for our basketball, hockey, and football teams. It's also the main color we use in a lot of our logos on our website for the Paranormal Ghost Society, even for AngelOfThyNight Radio. Red and black is our theme colors. We use red and black for everything. We're almost getting down to the nitty-gritty with it. I mean, everything's back together, obviously. We still have more work to do. We have to put the stock on, because when you fire this, you're going to hold it like this, and it's got to be steady. It's going to have some recoil. When it goes back, you don't want it to tip like this, and you got the handle in your hand, and the thing just goes flying back. I could see that, man. There's a washer. It has a couple washers, the bolt. I should have painted the stock red. I think that would have looked cooler. And I still can do it. I still can do it. But a black stock is fine too. In this case, my stock requires, I'll show you guys, a special tool. The hex tool. It's not just a, a screwdriver's not going to take it on and off. I mean, I suppose you could change the bolt on it and make it easier if you don't like this, but I just use a regular hex bolt. So right now you guys can see I got the whole shotgun back together. It looks really nice. Obviously it looks way better than it being all rusty. You have to remove the rust, and then what you have to do is paint it. And the only reason why you paint it is to keep any more rust from developing. And even if you think you got some of that corrosive rust, if you don't paint it, eventually rust seems to spread over time. There's moisture in the air. You don't want any metal on the outside exposed, because you don't want any weak. You don't want the barrel to become weak or have so much rust that when you fire it, it just ends up splitting the barrel or some strange accident happens. So you got to keep the rust off your guns. Now you can't control much rust inside, but this has got a new trigger mechanism, so it's a little different. So you guys can see I've completed what I needed to complete. So everybody, you can see I put it back together and it's painted. I'm gonna oil it down, examine it some more, and then we'll film one last segment so you guys can kind of see it in work in motion. Without ammo, of course, because we're indoors. Some of my friends will probably say, take it outdoors and shoot it. But anyhow, I'm going to go ahead. I got some Catalina chicken I'm going to eat for dinner. But you guys see cherry, red, and black. The main purpose of the video is to show you guys how to get rust out of things. It doesn't have to be your gun. It could be any type of metal that gets rusty. I showed you guys how to get rid of the rust. And then what you do once you get rid of the rust is you paint it. In this case, I painted the shotgun. And, you just put the shells in here and bam, got all the parts inside. It's a little stiff. It's going to have to be, like I said, I may have to file down some of the paint a little bit more to get it fully smooth and cocking and working. But you get the gist of it. Got the Mossberg shotgun right here. And this is Lord Rick of AngelOfThyNight Radio. And we'll be back with another segment soon. Peace out. Hey everybody, I know I said I'd be back with the last segment of the show, but I ended up eating some of that Catalina chicken and just passed out like a baby. So we're going to finish up the show. What I've done is what took me so long during the first show is you guys see I painted cherry red and black, okay? Well, this is the forend, okay? Right here. And it wasn't sliding. Because when I put paint on, it was too thick on the barrel, and so it was getting stuck, Now the forearm only goes back so far, but I wanted to put it all back together really quickly. See, I've never taken apart this shotgun. I've owned this shotgun for almost 20 years, and I've never taken it apart until I did the show because everything was so orange and rusty. It's no longer rusty inside. It's black the way it's supposed to be. There's no paint inside either. But when you paint the outside, if you put too thick of a coat, you may have to shave off the paint, and which is what I did on the bottom. Nobody sees the bottom of the gun. If you're going to look at the gun, this is what you're going to see when I'm holding it like this. Okay? But I'm going to go part by part real quick and just put them in. If you guys want to look for a more in-depth video that shows you how to do it inside, like where the camera's facing with the light, you can look that up on YouTube. I'm not going to do that because this mainly was to teach you guys how to get rid of the rust, repaint the gun to keep moisture from further rust. Everything has to line up perfect, okay? Because see what I had to do the other night to go off film, the barrel had to be pounded back into the metal. It took me about 15 minutes to pound it back in. It was not fitting in. But now we got our barrel in. There's this piece here on the end, it's just a cap. And what it does is it locks the barrel into place. This doesn't come out. You know, this metal, the metal where the fore end runs along, it's actually been infused permanently with your arm, you know, or where you load your ammo and then the stock. I don't have the stock totally attached, but what we want to do is, now you guys see, okay, this is your bolt. It's so important that when you put the bolt in, there's a little track. I don't know if you guys can probably see it, but there's a little track right here it runs on, okay? These pieces that are in here just prevent the bolt from going inside the chamber. It's kind of like there's these little metal, they're kind of pointy. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to put the bolt in first. As a matter of fact, we're going to put this is the elevator. And see what the elevator does is it holds the ammo shells, sit on top of this. And the ammo, you fit the shotgun shell in and you load it into the chamber using this. Now I ran into a little problem. My elevators do not have notches on the end. Maybe they fell off, maybe, I mean it could be a number of things. I may have to buy a new one to put in. You don't really need the elevator, but the elevator is really nice to be able to just sit your shells on top, crank it, and look, you know, and push the barrel. Will push. I mean, once you crank the forearm, it'll push the ammo into the chamber so you can shoot it. But I don't have notches, and there's 2 notches here, and so it's kind of loose. And so when I put it back together, I'm like, whoa, 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 why is this coming apart? You know, because I had it all together and I was able to cock it. It was a little tight. You got to cock it about 100 times to get it loose, which we'll do on film. Well, I'll show you guys once it's all together. But I may have to not use the elevator. And that means I just need to push the shell into the chamber and just cock it manually, you know. But this will hold it, so that way you don't have to do that. But it may stay, once we have all the mechanisms in here, there's a good chance that this is going to stay anyways without having notches. So we put our elevator in. Make sure you don't put it upside down. You know, line it up with the holes. What I like to do is I have a little pin just to kind of hold it in place. Okay. Notice I'm sitting the gun up. You're going to want to sit the gun upward. And what I'm doing also is I'm going to oil down the gun a little. Because there's a lot of little grooves. Want it to slide back and forth, alright? I'm going to go ahead, I got a football game in Buffalo. I'm wearing all my Bills getup because the Bills versus Arizona Cardinals. Kickoff's right about now, so I'm going to put on the game. You guys may hear it in the background. Sunday football is a tradition in my house, so we have football on. I'll try to do the how-to video while watching the football game. So kickoff's a few minutes away, and I'll go ahead and I'll watch the football game. Yeah, they're about to kick it just in time. So I greased it up. You're going to want to use gun oil. Don't be afraid to be stingy with it. This oil is good for years, especially if you don't shoot your gun. But the barrel's going to go on in. There's a groove that catches. See, this piece will go on top of here, and it slides. You see that? And so it all goes inside like this. But you can only do one piece at a time. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to move the elevator up for now, because it's in the way. You should be able to disassemble the gun. Oh, so Arizona's got the ball in the kickoff, but they got him down. Okay, so we're going to take our elevator out because it is in the way. Put the elevator in it. I mean, you can do it any way you want. There's really no specific directions. You want to put some of the other, we have these little pieces that'll go in. You can do that too. Okay, but we'll start with this. You guys see this real quick? There's a groove. There's a tiny piece inside that'll lock into this groove so the bolt slides back and forth. It's what holds it into place, or helps hold it into place. It's not going to be easy to get in. Everything has to match up perfectly. And see, that's the part people have trouble with. That's the hard part, is getting everything to match up the way it's supposed to. And you may have to take a screwdriver and lift it up just a bit to get it to fit on there. There's a track you're going to want to put on the bolt and keep it on track so it doesn't come off. Because when your bolt hits the back of the shell, it causes a spark. I don't know the name of this piece, but it's square. I showed you guys. There's a hook that kind of latches with the other piece, so it locks in and it's going to go straight down. And there's these little notches here, okay, in your fore end. You know, so when you cock the shotgun, it's this piece. It has two little arms, and they go inside the mechanism. So when you sit this down, the fore end locks into here. That's how you move the barrel back and forth, okay? Everything has to be perfect for it to go in, because you're trying to lock it in. There we go. Okay, it's locked in. Okay, everything's on track. It won't even fall out. I'll show you guys. We almost have it all put back together. And this is what it's going to look like inside. It's all locked in. And that's where the trigger is going to go. And then this is your barrel. And basically, that's one of the hardest parts. Everything has to line up, okay? See, what happened is when I was doing this tutorial a couple nights ago, I realized, you know, the paint I had to get some of the paint off because it was too thick. I put it all back together. I couldn't cock it. It was too hard. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Well, the bolt and the piece that goes in here wasn't locked in with the arms. The arms were like a ½ inch in front of it, so I couldn't even cock it back far enough. And then the other issue is with this is that this piece that's on top, your barrel, it's the barrel that's on top. This is where your buckshot's going to come out of. Well, it had to be pounded in here because I had gotten some paint on here. I mean, I could have easily got it off with acetone. I could have scraped it with a knife. But when I put the barrel halfway in, I couldn't get it out and I couldn't get it in. So I had to pound it in. And there's grooves. And it's all the way in. And it has to be in because the barrel has a piece here, you see? And there's a bolt that goes on top, so it holds it all. So when these two meet, that's how you know you got it in. So if you paint this, be careful not to paint where you pound it in at. And I didn't think nothing of it, so it was real tight, and it had to be pounded in professionally. But now we got it all together, so now the mechanisms will be on track and work. I don't even think I had it all the way in, and I couldn't get the top bolt to screw in. It wasn't meeting. It was still like a ½ inch apart. So you got to make sure they're both even, and you have this on because you want to keep the barrel. I mean, you have a lot in a shotgun shell. There's a lot of power, a lot of black powder to it, and there is recoil. And if you don't have this piece on, you're going to end up shooting something off the gun. It's just going to blow it all forward. This would become like a missile, your barrel. Because basically this barrel could shoot off. I mean, it's unlikely if it's pounded in pretty good, but you don't want to take no chances. You can rebuild, you can build your own shotgun. You could buy the barrel and the mechanisms and everything if you really wanted to. Some of them are interchangeable, and that's what we're doing today. We're putting a totally different trigger on and safety system. So we have that right now. What we'll work on, I didn't put the elevator in, so we have to get the elevator in, and so I have to go ahead and take out the top piece real quick. And it's not a huge ordeal, but your fore-end has to go in. My suggestion is you put it in first and line it up. And that's not hard to do. Mine don't have notches, so by me putting this piece in, it also holds my elevator in. So I don't even need notches, it just needs to hold it in place so I can load shotgun shells. So I'm going to put that bag down here. Everything has to be lined up perfectly, you know. There we go. Oh, just make sure everything's hooked right. And you just want to drop it on in there. So bear with me. Arizona's coming out strong against Buffalo. This is what it looks like. Where the light's shining at your elevator. Notice there's a notch in it. Notice the notch. Look all the way in the bottom, and it locks into the piece, that little rectangular piece, and underneath is your bolt, which will hit the chamber and blow out your TN, your black powder from the shotgun shell, your bird shot. All we have left is a trigger and two little pieces to put in, and this shotgun will be whole and ready to fire. Oh, Bill's just scored a touchdown. Mackenzie, baby. And this is what it's going to look like. So you guys can kind of see. That's the bolt right there. So you can't load no shells because it's pulled the fore end's pulled all the way towards the front. Right? So you have the bolt right here. When I push the bolt to my right or all the way back, it'll be a cavity where you can put your shotgun shells right here. But we're not ready to load it with shells just yet. Okay, so the next piece we're going to put in, it's called a cartridge interrupter. Okay, you want it to curve towards the barrel. So in other words, it's going to go in this way. You can't really see, but there's a notch right here. And this actually goes into your trigger mechanism. So when we put it in, it's going to face downward because it has to line up with the trigger. Okay, so we're going to put this in. It moves up and down. It's hard to see. But when it goes on the inside like this, and it moves up, down, like a lever. But it is your cartridge interrupter, so we put that in, okay? And of course, this is your trigger, so, you know, when we put the trigger on in, you're gonna retrofit it into the cartridge interrupter when the trigger goes down in here. But when you have to have it facing down when you pop this in. And of course, pull out the trigger because I'm gonna want to use this notch, this trigger, when the trigger comes up, to line it up with the entire. There's like a notch. I'm gonna line it all up so it fits all together snug, you know. So we won't get to the trigger yet. We're almost done assembling this gun. It should only take you 15 minutes to take it apart, depending on if it's rusty and old. And it should only take you 15 minutes to put it together. I'm taking my time just to kind of show you guys the pieces and what goes in piece by piece. Okay, because every gun's different. You know, when you own a gun, it's different than the last gun you took apart. Mainly, a lot of guns are similar. It's just that the part things might be in different areas, depending on what type of gun. Is it semi-automatic? Is it a shotgun? Is it a handgun? If you use your shotgun a lot, there's a lot of black powder, it gets gunked up, you know, and so it's good to take it apart and oil it down so it's not too stiff to cock, because you got to have everything oiled and nicely working, so when you put shells in, bam, you're ready to fire it. Lucky we caught the rust in time. It didn't weaken, it didn't ruin any of the parts. The only difference is that this was a metal trigger, and there's metal pieces, and they're all rusty. This is like polyurethane or a plastic. I mean, the only metal piece is a little rod, couple little rods holding this together, you know, where there's bolts. But it's brand new trigger. I like this trigger because it has a safety built into it. On this shotgun, the safety's on the back, and it's a factory defect where it freezes. So you know, you could end up having a permanent safety on and not be able to take the safety off to shoot it. And then you got to get a screwdriver and hammer and try to knock the safety loose. Nobody wants to do that. And in a time you want to have the safety be able to move easily, safety on, safety off. Oh, I want to shoot that deer out in the field. Safe. You don't want to be fiddling with your safety if you're hunting. So we're putting a new safety system in. You can also buy triggers, I guess, without safeties. I don't want that on my shotgun. Safety is very important. Now with the cartridge interrupter, remember I said how it goes up and down? Well, you can't really see it, but the arms on the fore end, there's two arms right here, and it kind of goes like this and then slopes down. So when it hits the cartridge interrupter, which the cartridge interrupter will be the level, one end of it will be locked into the trigger, right? So when you pull this in and you pull it out, it goes up and down because of the way these arms are. When you have it all the way in, it pushes on it, so that way the lever moves up and down. So it's really cool. The trick, it's going to be a little tricky to get the trigger in exactly. Everything has to match up. Okay. So the next thing is the cartridge stopper. No notches, anything. It just fits into there. And see, I don't need to show you guys because you're going to have in your Mossberg shotgun two similar pieces. And the small little piece, the cartridge interrupter and the cartridge stopper are very similar. It's little metal bars, and they hook toward the curve, goes towards the barrel. You don't put them in away from the barrel, they won't fit. But you have these little grooves where you're going to fit this on in. I mean, everything kind of gets held into place. That's the thing. And you just want to put it all the way in as tight as you can get it inside. Okay? And you have to be careful because when you're putting in your trigger, it's going to fall out. And what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to oil the piece so it stays. If you put a couple dots of oil, it'll hold it in place so that it's not falling when you put the trigger on. Because trust me, man, it's a pain in the ass if you don't, you know, there's a lot of little, I'm not saying they're little parts, but there's a lot of moving parts. Okay, so it's staying on its own. We're going to do the same thing with this. We're going to oil this gun. This gun's going to stay in my gun cabinet near my front door. Somebody tries to break in, I can pull the gun out and say, hey, what the fuck you doing, you know? I'm not a violent person or anything like that, but when you own a gun, you should take care of it. It's for protection, not to hurt anybody, a hunt, for food. If Yellowstone were to blow, the whole U.S. would be in chaos. There would be martial law. People would be basically breaking laws, breaking into houses, stealing food, stealing guns. It's not going to happen with me. My shotgun's going to probably stay near my shotgun will be within a few feet of me at all times. 7-3 Buffalo Bills. You're going to want to keep everything straight up and down, or it's just going to, everything's just going to fall apart when you're trying to put your trigger in, okay? If you have to lean it a little, you lean it. If it stays for you, you know, it's just, this one has a notch, so it's kind of self-explanatory. Once you take apart your gun, you're going to be like, oh man, this shit's easy. Okay, so we got both. The only thing left to do is put the trigger in. And it has, like I said, it has to line up exactly with the cartridge stopper and the it has to line up with the cartridge interrupter, and then you have the cartridge stopper. There's reasons why these mechanisms are on here. It's for safety. Because I'm sure somebody could take a lot of those parts off and kind of put the parts they want. I mean, you could buy in a receiver, you could just buy the receiver or the barrel and you can put your own moving parts in. They're relatively similar. But with the Mossberg, you have your cartridge interrupter, your cartridge stopper, you have your bolts, you have your elevator to hold the shotgun so it goes up and down, so when you cock it, it manually, it pushes, when the barrel hits it, the bolt hits it, puts it up in the barrel, ready to fire. When you hit that trigger, bam! And the bolt hits it, creates a little tiny spark in the back, and the cartridge expends out the barrel. Buffalo just scored a field goal. It's 10-3 on Arizona. Buffalo Bills are having a great season. I'm from Buffalo. I spent 20 years of my life growing up in Buffalo, the streets of Buffalo, man. And as a kid growing up, playing on the streets, riding my bike all over the city, So it's my home, and I've been watching the Bills since I was a kid, and I'm still a Bills fan. Someone asked me today, I was at the casino, ate breakfast, gambled a little, won some money, got a free breakfast, that kind of thing. She said, "You're not a Raiders fan?" I said, "No, they just moved to Las Vegas." And it's like, no, I've been a Bills fan my whole life. I mean, can't you tell? I'm always in Bills getup on game day. So, yeah, definitely, sports are definitely coming in Nevada, but I don't jump on no bandwagon. So we got it all together. The only thing left is our trigger. Okay, simple mechanism. This will get pushed down when you cock it. Bam! Every time. And this will hit, when this trigger goes up, it'll basically hit the bolt and that piece that's in the groove, and it'll just slide, pushing the bolt to fire. And I'll show you, when we got it all back together, I'll show you how it'll fire. I'm not going to load any shells or anything in it, but I want to show you that it does fire. So basically all you do is put a cartridge in and you're ready to go. And I can hold up to 8 shells. 8 shells is a lot. That's 8 shots. So if you're in the zombie apocalypse, 8 shots is a lot. Because if you got 4 or 5 zombies in front of you, you could blow all their heads off at the same time. Of course, I'm thinking more this is a great gun for bird shot, bird hunting, such as turkeys and so forth. If you have the right type of cartridge in here, you can actually hunt for turkey and so forth. They'll let you get within 50 feet. If you got some good cartridges in here, you could hunt bird. Problem is, when you hunt with the shotgun, sometimes sometimes the ammo, if it's buckshot, you can't eat that part of the meat. It's no good. If you have to go for a kill shot, hit the head or whatever, or an organ, and the meat will be good as long as you keep it confined to a given area. So this is a great hunting gun. It's a great gun for protection, because if you have 2-3 bandits coming at you and you're in the apocalypse, they want to steal your food, this is a gun that'll take out 3-4 enemies at the same time. That's why the SWAT uses them. It has kick. It's not much of a... I have stronger guns for killing. And I'm not a person that looks at a gun, oh, I'm going to kill. I'm looking for stopping power and protection. Not necessarily to kill. This has stopping power. Somebody's going to be in a world of hurt if they have to pull 30, 40 pellets of buckshot out of them. As long as you're not, if you shoot them at close range, you could blow off an arm or a leg. I mean, you have to think about those things when you use this for protection. So all that's left is a trigger, and we're going to put the trigger into the trigger housing, okay? It's a very simple process. Like I said, though, you got to be careful. You kind of got to hold everything at the same time, and that's not always easy. And you want your bolt forward, because it's going to have to go up into this. Nice and easy. Okay? See, it's all together now? Now you can't see it, but this is the trigger pin, okay? The trigger pin is going to lock this into place. It's not easy to hit. It's not easy to get this pin in. It is oily, so I'm twisting it in, but I'm probably going to have to pound the trigger pin in. Okay, your trigger would come out if you didn't have this pin in. See how it locks into place? And then you got the pin right here. The pin goes all the way through. You can use, there we go, should go in easy. It's all the way in. Everything's held in place. And now what we're going to do is we're going to put the stock back on. This gun will work perfectly once it's all back together. And it's well oiled up. You make sure you have a washer on here before you put this bolt back on, okay? We have a couple washers. Actually, I have 2 washers. And the bolt's going to go on the end of the stock right here, okay? It's a hex bolt. You don't have to use a hex bolt if you don't want. I prefer, I don't care, that's how the gun came, so I'm not going to start changing up anything. But you have to make sure everything lines up perfect. We're going to tighten the stock back on, okay? So shotgun's all back together, cherry red and black, just how I taught you guys how to get the rust off, okay? It doesn't hurt to do a little, I'm going to do a touch-up job on this, because anywhere above here, the foreend's not going to go past this part. There's a stopper. And so I'm going to repaint, I'm going to put some cherry red paint right here on the end. It got a little scratched up trying to pound it and all. So I will touch it up, but you guys can kind of see how it looks. And it looks pretty good, doesn't it? All black and cherry red. It's a pretty sharp looking shotgun. Not a huge shotgun, because there's a lot of shotguns that have barrels longer than this. You have double barrels. But this shotgun, a lot of police forces and SWAT teams use this, because you shoot somebody that has a bulletproof vest robbing a bank, it may not kill them if you shoot them in the chest, but it'll blow them back. It'll still knock them out. These guns have a lot of force. SWAT team uses them. Don't get me wrong, at close range these are deadly. The closer you are shooting this gun, the more of an impact and damage it's going to do. Far away, shotguns don't do as much damage. People still get hit with the buckshot and the lead pellet. They used to use little lead balls. I don't know if they still use lead in some. I have a lot of different shotgun shells. Some might be lead. But that's what the old saying is, I'll pump you full of lead. Because 1-2 shots from far away, even if you're not aiming, you have 50 tiny little lead balls. They're speedy sized, just flying at whatever you're shooting at, depending on the ammo you use. But it's packed in with a lot of black powder in these little balls. 50 feet away you shoot this, you'll probably hit them in the chest, the legs. It's a good defensive weapon, and it won't kill them. Up close, if somebody comes up close and they have no bulletproof vest, it'll blow a hole in their chest. It'll expend the first 10 feet. This will expend a lot of power. That's why they use them. But anyways, the gun's all together. See? And I have the safety off. And you guys can see I can cock it. But you guys get the idea. It's painted, it's put back together. So please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Check out our website, www.paranormalghostsociety.org, because I always got to throw promotions out there. We're not your everyday paranormal group. We do urban exploration, historical research, preservation, education, training, paranormal investigations. You name it, we do it. We have a sports team. We've been around for 20 years, and when I host, I've had Angel of the Night Radio. I don't host as much, but when I do radio shows, sometimes we just like to do a how-to segment or a cooking show. It just depends. In this case, this is just a how-to video on how to remove rust off anything, including your guns. And then I wanted to add an extra bonus feature where I put it back together right in front of your eyes and pumped it so you guys can see how it works. I may have to go and buy a new elevator for it, because the elevator keeps falling out. And the reason why is, I think when it got, see, I have the elevator out because you really don't need it, but I think what happened is that it's supposed to have a notch on each side. Well, the notches came out, and so I got to go buy a new elevator. probably you can get one on Amazon probably for like $5-10 because it keeps falling out. It goes in the top of the barrel like this below the trigger, and it moves up and down like this. And so when you tip the gun like this, it's like this. There's a catch. You put the shotgun shell on here, rest on here, and so when you pump it, it slides it gently into the barrel. Makes sense, right? But you guys can see, it should slide nice. Remember, it wasn't sliding when I did my show earlier, and you just heard it fire. So once it fires, you can cock it again. Watch. See? He wants what he can never have. See? The safety's off right now. When the safety's on, you'll push it in. You don't see it. You can't even cock it until you take the safety off. Safety, right? So you can't fire it. Pull the bolt forward. And there you go. We got ourselves a working cherry red and black Mossberg 500 shotgun. Brand new trigger system. See, this trigger system, I want to say there's no more. I don't have to deal. These triggers get really stiff and rusty. This was a metal trigger system. The whole thing's, this is plastic. Everything on top is metals, metal springs. When everything rusted, it rusted the inside. So this mechanism, it doesn't even fire because the rust it's corroded everything inside. See? It just fell apart on me. The whole trigger just broke off. What I did is I went on eBay and I bought the trigger mechanism, and someone took it off a gun and changed it out and had it for like $35. And it's brand new. When somebody sold this to me for $35. Brand new, never really used. A lot of gun shops sometimes that are on eBay, they'll sell parts for your shotgun. It's just small things, like, for example, the elevator. Now, I don't have the elevator in this. I got to go buy a new one because there's notches that hold it in place. See, it holds like this and it moves up and down with when you put a shotgun shell, it rests on here. So what I have to do with this is manually put the shell in the barrel, push it forward, bam, it's ready to shoot. And it's just the trigger just hits the bolt, causing it to fire. But it's good when you first put it back together. You know, don't be afraid to. See, it had the safety on, so I could pull it forward, I couldn't shoot it. But don't be afraid to go like this. It's a little stiff. And it's going to be that way. And that's the other thing. If you don't pull the trigger, you won't be allowed to cock it. See? And what you're going to want to do, hold it like this. Don't be afraid to put some in the barrel. Like this. And move it, rock it around, okay? Having an oil gun is not going to be sinful, okay? See how it's smoother? It's for protection. So I would only put maybe 1 or 2 shells in. I could put all 8 in. Load it with 8 shells, and I would have 8 shots. Okay, I can keep 1 shell in it, keep the safety on, like this. Okay, I can have it sit in my gun case like this or this. Somebody's breaking in, there's violence in the street, somebody's trying to get on my property, because there are disasters. We could get earthquakes, volcanoes, anything. It could decimate Nevada, California, whatever. zombie apocalypse, who knows, but I'll keep this very accessible to me. I just grab it. It's intimidating enough if you're holding it like this. Ain't anybody, you don't even have to shoot it. You just have to show this gun. Because anybody who knows about this gun knows this gun has power. This will blow your fucking head off. And I'm not, I'm not a violent person or anything like that, but I'm just physically speaking, if you have no choice and someone's going to attack you, rape you, whatever the case is, who knows? This would be the gun you're going to want to have. But see, I'm getting a different type of shotgun. I'm getting a long barrel shotgun too. And there's 5 different gauges, maybe more, but you got 10, you got 12, you got 18, I've heard 20, 28. And I guess it determines the size of the bore for the shotgun and how many lead balls there would be in that shot. The number of lead balls varies. And lower gauges have bigger bore holes. And this is a 12 gauge, so you guys can see the hole's quite large. Look, I stick my whole, I got a ring on, but I can stick my whole finger in there. So this packs quite a punch. This is a 12 gauge, and it holds 8 shells. But a guy once told me at the gun shop when we bought this years ago that technically you could fit 2 extra ones in here. So I don't know what he meant, because 8 to me sounds like a legitimate number. I don't see getting any more than 8, loading 8 into this. But this is a great gun. And it's not loaded because obviously, I'm in the studio, but I show you guys, see, an easy firing system. And it's greased up now. The problem was I had paint on the bottom of the barrel, and then on the receiver I got some paint on top, so I couldn't slide this arm, and we didn't have it locked in when we were filming in the studio. It wasn't sliding right. I had to put more oil, get it back on track. And now the bolt's on track, everything's just smooth, and it's smooth to shoot. So it's ready to go. It's no longer rusty. The parts, this is a new trigger system, it's mainly plastic, so I don't have to worry about rust. With this, I had to worry about rust. There was a lot of rust, it's falling apart. When a gun goes rusty, you could still use the receiver, you could still use the barrel by getting the rust off with the way I showed you. But if it's a metal trigger type of system with metal springs, if it's corroded, those springs are no longer viable, and you're going to have to put a new trigger system in. This trigger system, the safety's built right on the side. With the original Mossberg, when I bought this originally, it came with this metal trigger. It's metal, it's very stiff. Even when I owned it, it was very stiff. And the safety was on top, right on top, and I'll show you guys. So you see that notch right there? That slides up and down. That's the old safety. Okay, the new safety is right here. See? And then of course, when this is closed, because you guys can see in here the bolt, this is the bolt right here. Okay, this is where the shells go. It's ready to shoot, and now it's open. And you can put your shell in there, crank it up, safety off, pow! It's a very easy shotgun to use, very simple. I wouldn't keep it loaded, like I wouldn't keep this loaded. I'd put a shell in here and I would take the safety off and pull it back. That way if you pull the trigger, the barrel, the bolt's not going to hit the shot and fire it. Because you can keep it loaded. I mean, you don't have to cock it. You could keep this open and just put shells, and if anybody's breaking in your house, one cock, boom, it's ready to go. See what I'm saying? And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put my shells down into this ahead of time, 8 shells, and I'm going to keep it this way with the safety on. Got zombies coming through the window. People laugh at me, but that's how I want to put it. I can hit the safety off, pull the fore end forward, which is down in this case because I'm showing you guys. All I do is push the trigger. 5, 6 zombies, boom, will blow back. I know people laugh at me, but I like to use examples that are understandable for people because there's a lot of terminology with guns. You know, you have your fore end, you have your your stopper, your interceptor, or interrupter, your elevator. You got all these terms. Your stock, your receiver, your fore end, your barrel, right here on top. And there's a little notch here for aiming. And the notch, I mean, you want to have the shotgun against your shoulder because there's going to be kickback. You don't want to hold it here. You don't want to put your face here where it's going to hit you. A small sight on top. And I have many different types of shotgun shells, okay? And they're for different, when you're hunting game, some might be for deer and some might be bird shot for birds. So it's a great gun, hunting, in the apocalypse, self-defense. I'm not going to carry it on the streets. The thing is that I do want to have it in my this is a gun you want to have in your gun cabinet, is a Mossberg 500. They have different models. Any of those Mossbergs within the 500 models are really good. They'll last. It's a 20-year-old gun, man. It got put in a place where it was damp, and when I pulled it out, it was rusty. I'm like, whoa, 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 and the trigger was no good. The safety was stiff as it is, and when it got rusty, it never moved again, even if I pounded it with a screwdriver and hammer. So I built the safety. I got a safety on the trigger instead, which just tells me, parts are universal, and you can put certain parts into certain guns from other guns, and the Mossberg has some interchangeable parts, because the housing is rather similar here. So you can get parts on Amazon or eBay really cheap. And you can actually build your own shotgun, really. I don't build my own weapons right now, but with the shotgun that I have the ability to at least change out parts if they're not working right. Eventually I may put a different bolt in, a newer bolt. The bolt has a couple on the sides, a little bit of rust. Because you may not get all the rust, and you may have to scrub it by hand before you decide to paint this gun. Then you put the paint on to keep it from getting rusty. And so the whole outside's painted, which will deflect a lot of dust and moisture. But just remember, if you have this open, if you have your cartridge area where you put the cartridges in, because you can put them in underneath too. I don't have the elevator, but when you put in the cartridges into the barrel and so forth, you want everything working smoothly, not rusty. So after you clean the rust up, you're going to want to scrub this by hand. Because it's not, sometimes some of the rust is real stubborn to get off, and you can take steel wool and scrub everything down. But as far as like springs go, you'll have to replace those parts, and there is some springs in the bolt, but it didn't damage, the rust didn't damage it, just the main spring. Plus it's on a thread like this. I mean, it can't just fall off or bend. However, in the trigger itself that goes like this, the springs are constantly moving. I tried to use this trigger and fire it, and it was stiff and rusty, and pieces of metal are falling out, the spring, everything. So I ended up getting a new trigger. But everything else is original. The only thing I bought for it was the trigger. And eventually I'll buy an elevator. See, there's these two holes. They're supposed to be notches, little round notches. And they lock in, there's a hole right here. And I'll show you guys, you can't really see it, but I'll put the flashlight on it. Right below my finger, there's a hole, okay? And that's where your elevator locks in. I don't have the elevator on. It doesn't have anything to do with shooting this gun or anything. It just makes it easier when you put the shells in. They're held in when you cock it, so you can cock it each time. If I have to cock it one at a time, I'll do it. It doesn't matter, because I'm only going to put 1 or 2 shells in here and cock it when I'm ready to use the gun and shoot it. And I'll have the safety on, so you won't be able to cock it with the safety on. However, with the safety off, I can grab this gun instantly, cock it, bam, and shoot it. It's ready to go. You see what I'm saying? But it is getting looser. And see, and it doesn't hurt. I'm going to tell you right now to put a little oil. I have a little more oil. Put a little between the barrel and where your fore-end slides back and forth. That way you get some, see? See how easy it's sliding now? So it does work. And the Bills, last time they've had a 6-2 record, has almost been, I think it's been 17 or 18 years. I think it was 1993 when the Bills went to the Super Bowl. And they're winning the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah, the Bills are 7-2 right now. The Bills could have potentially have an 8-2 record today. So go Bills! I want to say go Bills! Got our gun now matches the Paranormal and Ghost Society's colors. This is my urban exploration or paranormal monster hunting gun. It's got a lot of kick. It's got a lot of power. And the whole thing about having it, it's more for if you're in a dangerous situation. It's not about you don't have to kill or shoot somebody. If somebody sees you holding the gun like this walking around, do you really think that they're going to mess with you? I mean, even if they're a bad person, they know that this is a shotgun. So it can do a lot of damage, and it's not a gun. It's not like getting shot with a 10mm or a handgun. You know, sometimes somebody gets shot 3-4 times in the legs and chest and still comes running after you, or they still end up surviving. Chances are, up close, somebody's not going to survive a shot from this. And that would be only in a deadly situation for self-defense. And I'm not an offensive person. I'm a very self-defense person. You know, I have guns for self-defense. I have a large truck and big dogs. The truck for protection and to put our gear in, and then I have the dogs for protection. You know, all these little measures I take. I live out in Nevada, near a bustling town, but pretty soon I'll be living in the country dealing with mountain lions, coyotes, bears, that kind of thing. And I don't ever shoot an animal. I'm not a hunter, but if I had to hunt and eat, my guess would be that if I was to go after a deer or so forth, I'd make sure I ate it, not shot it because it's fun to kill things. I don't shoot to kill. I don't hunt. These weapons, my truck, my dogs, all these things, my bug out bag, this is all for self-defense in case something goes to shit. It's November 15th and we're living in a world that's just crazy. You know, pandemics, and there'll be other pandemics like this. As the poles melt, there could be some virus that gets released. A prehistoric virus that wiped out some of the dinosaurs that was brought to the dinosaurs by mosquitoes, now is frozen in ice, which could live thousands of years frozen. And we could get some bacteria that has a 95% kill rate, and millions of people are going to die and starve and be sick. There'll be no government, no police. You know, so the only thing you're going to have is this gun. And not to be used to commit murder or to be used to rob somebody, but to be used as protection to prevent somebody from coming into your camp, stealing your meat, stealing your guns, stealing your woman. You know, if you got kids, daughters, whatever, you're going to have to look after them. If Yellowstone blows, all the government is going to go underground. They're going to leave us to die. It's a really good possibility. Buffalo just scored 16-9 Arizona. First quarter, everybody. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to skedaddle out of here. Tyler Bass keeps kicking field goals. I'm going to wipe this down. Like I said, it's going to need a little red touch-up paint just on the front here, because a little bit chipped off. Not too much. It's not even about how it looks, because once you take it outdoors, you're going to get chips in the paint. I mean, I had this gun completely black. And I used to take it hiking, and in about 4 years of hiking, it was no longer black. It was gun metal. It was almost silverish, aluminum colored, because all the paint came off hiking in rainstorms. I used to put it on my shoulder and just hike. But it looks nice, polished up. You guys can see. Look at that. I mean, it really looks sharp. It really looks good. I should have did the handle red. And I still might. I might just put tape around here and paint the handle red. I haven't decided yet. But it's okay the way it looks. I mean, it's got good contrast. You have your forend here. This is all red. Your receiver black, sharp looking black. So I think we're in halftime right now. And Tyler Bass just kicked a field goal, so Buffalo's leading at 16-9. Really exciting football game. They had an awesome touchdown. Buffalo did. So did the Cardinals. I mean, we got to respect our opponents. We have to. We have a basketball team, and we play some of the most talented basketball players here in Northern Nevada. Some play for the Wolfpack, and some or have played college or the Wolfpack. So some of them guys are good ballers. And we hope to win a championship in the next 5-6 years, unless COVID keeps our facilities shut down. There's not going to be much sports going on here in Nevada for a couple years. And I'm 45 years old, so I don't know how much I got left in me, but I do pretty well against younger guys. I've won quite a few games just versing We go practice every week at our facility. We'll verse 2, 3, 4 new guys, and I've been keeping up. I've been jogging. I've been exercising, getting in good shape because I want to coach our men to a championship. And so aside from that, if you guys want to support the Paranormal Ghost Society's Phantoms Sports Organization or sports team, you can do so. Look us up on Facebook. Give us a like. Also on our website, we have our own teams. We have our own team page with stats, videos, pictures. You can buy some of our sports wear and wear it yourself. We have logo like a phantom on the front of our jerseys. You could buy a jersey, put your name on it, buy a ball cap, whatever. We sell all sorts of cool stuff for our sports team. And we have all kinds of cool things. I've written books for the Paranormal Ghost Society. So we got a good thing going on. We want to branch out and want to teach you how to survive the apocalypse. It's good to know how to disassemble and assemble your guns if they need oiling, because when you're hiking with this, there's going to be dirt that gets inside and it's going to cause it not to work right. And you're going to have to take it apart. I can put this and take this apart within 10 minutes now. I was only taking my time to kind of talk and show you guys it. But you guys got it. Got the rust off, we painted it, we put it all back together. We put it all back together and this beauty's ready to fire. It will work. I'm going to go ahead and pick up a different gauge shotgun in the near future. I like my shotguns as much as I like my handguns, and I have some really nice rifles that I can shoot. One with the scope, great for hunting if necessary. I won't ever hunt. I don't like to hurt life. I like to preserve life, but I know that if there was no food at a grocery store, which is already the case with this pandemic, I would, in order to survive, would have to fish, gather plants, berries, or possibly hunt. And you could hunt. I got a crossbow, which is a clean kill, but if I had to guess, shotgun shells would be the most typical find. If you were collecting supplies, you'd come across them a lot, and they'd fit this shotgun most of the time. It's a 12 gauge is very common to find this type of ammo, which could keep you alive for months to come, for hunting. It's a good all-around gun for hunting or for protection. If you buy a shotgun like this and it doesn't come with the shoulder strap, there's all sorts of components you can buy. I mean, you could upgrade your guns, whatever. If you like a polyurethane trigger instead of a metal trigger, you can buy that. Whatever you want to do. I mean, it's your gun. There's a lot of upgrades for guns. You know, you got scopes, you got sights, you got different types of bolts, different types of triggers, different types of safeties, different shoulder straps. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the shoulder strap on. Actually, as a matter of fact, I'm going to hold off on putting the shoulder strap on, but you guys get the idea. And I'm going to go back over this with some red and black just to touch it up, make it look nice, because there was a little bit of paint that chipped off because I had to take a hammer, and look at this towel. This is funny. I took this towel, because you don't want to hammer metal on metal. You cause sparks, you can damage it. So what I did is I folded this. Oh, those Bills are kicking Arizona's ass, man. Buffalo's on the goal line. They did this one play where Josh Allen's the quarterback. He hands the ball off to McKenzie, which is a rising star for Buffalo, and McKenzie throws it to Josh Allen, and Josh Allen catches it in the end zone. And Arizona's just confused. And in a beautiful touchdown by Brown, and it looks like it's about 23-9, and the third quarter is almost done. And Arizona just scored, so now it's 16-23. Buffalo's ahead by a touchdown because it's 16-23, and Arizona just scored. So it's a really close game. Buffalo's put on a few field goals, a couple touchdowns. They get points however they want to get points. But anyways, I was hammering this with this. Couldn't get the barrel on in. It's fine now, but I had a lot of trouble at first. So be careful when you paint your gun and the barrel fits up into the receiver. Make sure you don't put any paint, or you're going to have to soak it or get some of the paint off. Or you can do what I do, which is just, I took a towel and I took the stock off on the ground, on a carpet, and I just pounded down. And it took me about 30, 40 times to get it on in there. But now everything looks good, right? I mean, I had to fix this too. If you notice on video, this piece was popping out. It's plastic. It's not metal, and it goes between the barrel And what it does is it comes out the back end. It stops you from cocking the shotgun at this point. If you take this plastic piece out, you could end up cocking it so far that you actually the shotgun gets off track, and then it's all off track inside the receiver. So don't mess with this plastic piece. All I did with this plastic piece is I cut it back down and I retrofitted it back inside between the barrel and where the left end goes about a ½ inch past where you have the barrel that sits on top, and then you have underneath. One of the guys had told me, if you take, he's full of shit, he doesn't know, but if you take this bolt off, he said you could store shells inside of here, and I just kind of laughed to myself because it's just a small tiny hole. You can't put cartridges in the bottom. But anyways, the fore end, because the reason why they call it the fore end is because it's fore. You know, it's a head of the receiver. So it's the fore end handle which cocks the shotgun. And the fore end goes about right here and stops where my finger is. And there's a plastic piece right here that stops it. Okay, and it's held on by 2 little bolts. It's hard to see. It's really hard to see, and I'll show you guys it on film. But if you cock it any further out the ½ inch, it could come off track, and that's why it's there. It's kind of to stop it. And here we go. You see the bolts? And then I'll do it on this side. Right here. When you cock the fore end, right here, let's say, it'll stop right here, so you don't cock it too far. And so I just showed you guys a little bit how to work with the Mossberg 500. And basically breaking it down and showing you guys a little bit about the Mossberg 500. This is a tactical shotgun. There's multiple models in the 500 series, but this is one of the first that they made, this type of tactical shotgun, and it's still widely used in law enforcement. It looks good. I mean, I was going to go with camo, and I'm like, why not do my team colors? This is a gun I would no longer plan on taking out hiking. I took it out hiking for years. It's more of a gun I keep in the gun cabinet, and if there's ever a situation that rises that I need self-defense or I need to survive, this is very versatile. It's a very strong, powerful shotgun, and you can use it for hunting or protection. I can pull this out. And, you know, 12-gauge cartridges are easy to come by. I have probably about 100 to 150 12-gauge cartridges, which can last me for hunting protection for a very long time. I know some people are like, I have thousands. I don't need thousands. There's unrest for a few months because Yellowstone erupts. I have enough shells to get me through a couple years worth of hunting, and maybe even protected my cabin or my home if there's no law enforcement. So 500 tactical shotgun. Isn't she a beauty? Just holding her like this. Painted it. I had gotten the rust off. I disassembled it. I didn't show you guys disassembly. I wanted to show you the assembly of everything that goes into it, so you kind of know all the mechanisms. But I painted, I oiled, and assembled it all for you guys to see. I cut this piece down. It was broken, or it was bent right here on the end, and I am not sure why. It could have been all the hammering, but I ended up cutting it down just a little bit, and I call it the stop, because that's what it is. It's a fore-end stop, and it stops the fore end from going too far forward. Just like here on the back side, there's a stopper, so that you can only go so far back with the arms and the bolt. Alright guys, so I'm going to finish watching this football game. We're almost into the fourth quarter, 23-16, Buffalo's leading. Great football game. This is October 15, 2020. I want to thank you guys for watching Angel of the Night Radio and your host, Lord Rick. Stay tuned for more episodes like these. We're going to be posting basketball, a lot of basketball practices. I'll do another cooking show in the future. I was thinking about doing a political show for a while, and I'm like, you know, I don't want to anger anybody. People get sensitive and pissed off. So if you want to read my political articles, you just got to be on my Facebook. Don't read anything you don't want to read if it offends you. When it comes to how-to videos, occasionally I like to do these for you guys, cooking, how to put guns together, all that kind of stuff. And we have about 1,000 outdoor videos we'll be sharing. I have not released them. I'm going to slowly release some videos from some mental asylums, some of my urban exploration, some of my underground type of work. I'm going to release some ghost town footage. some of our Bigfoot expeditions. Just don't unsubscribe from my channel. Subscribe, bring your friends. I got thousands of videos I will release. I just have to edit them, and that's the problem. Work, family, other hobbies and interests. You know, even like this is time consuming. It's very difficult to try to run the Paranormal Ghost Society and preservation projects and do public lectures and, you know, take care of my pets and take care of my property and work. And I got a lot going on, so just be patient with me. Our channel's going to be around 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and eventually we'll add thousands of videos. So our subscribers are in for a real treat. Mossberg 500 shotgun, everybody. Peace out. This is Lord Rick. See you. We hope to see you in the future, and thanks for tuning in. We're live from the Carson City, Nevada area. Go Bills. Try not to drop your drawers while you're in the middle of doing a show. No wonder why they call me Pistol Pete. Don't try this at home, folks. Or try it if you want to make an ass of yourself. Yeah, I forgot to wear a belt today. I put on all this buffalo gear and I forgot the most important thing. It's the belt that holds up my pants. I lost 80 pounds this year working out, playing basketball, and jogging. All my pants are loose and I got a belt, but I got to make more notches in the belt because it's not tight enough. And as you can see, I was just showing you guys a close-up of my Mossberg 500 all put back together. I was like, oh, I'm showing off the wrong type of barrel. Sorry, guys. Like I said, don't try this at home. There's a blooper in every one of my videos. You just got to catch it. Some people are good and notice it, and I don't say nothing. And other people, they're like, I seen you jumping off the television, Rick. And I'm like, or I seen you doing some crazy stunt like battling mashed potatoes and getting splattered in the face with hot boiling mashed potatoes and shit. Like I said, AngelOfThyNight Radio is a wild roller coaster ride. You never know where it's going to go. Even with our how-to videos or our talk programs or anything we hold about urban exploration and the paranormal. So just pay attention, and we appreciate you, the fans. Thank you for watching. Thank you for having a sense of humor. With all this pandemic, it's good to have a little bit of enjoy the lighter side of life. I know you agree. We have to take an optimistic look and be thankful that we're here every day to even be able to share a how-to video. Come on out and just let our friends know and our fans that we're still alive and okay. We're not kicking the bucket, thankfully. But I did have a COVID scare about a week ago, about 2 weeks ago. I felt I had some hot flashes. I was tired, had a headache for about 5-6 days. Went to get a COVID test. I was negative. Doesn't mean I didn't have it, because those are mild symptoms. Gets up in your nasal cavity, and sometimes it never leaves your head area. You get brain fog and headaches, and sometimes mild fevers, and I think that's what happened to me. And the only way to know is I'd have to get an antibody test. But I had a little bit of scare because I go to estate sales, and businesses are supposed to have people wear a mask and enforce it. All they care about is the money. So jam 50 people in a little house so you can buy tools and other products, and half of those people don't have masks. So may have gotten it at an estate sale, may have gotten it playing basketball. But I'm in good shape. I'm running, I'm jogging, I fought it off. I'm negative, and I'm here to actually finish this episode because I said when the election came up, I'm like, man, you know, this is a good video to post with all the civil unrest going on right now in our country. Just after the election, it might be good to at least have a working shotgun. And some of you may have guns that are rusty, and maybe this is a very common shotgun. Maybe you own one that's rusty, and maybe you can get the rust off, buy a trigger for it like I did, put it on in, and just have a sturdy shotgun for hunting and protection.